That speed? Impossible. Suddenly, before he could react, he realized his tail had been severed without him even noticing when it happened. The severed tail left him stunned in disbelief. He quickly retreated to a distance. Sion gently stepped forward, trampling on the tail that was just cut off. Widening the distance, huh? She tilted her head, her tone no longer the same as before. An interesting opponent like you must know about the red mist, right? It seemed everything was happening exactly according to the data in his head. Indeed, she was not easy to deal with at all. The image of a cheetah with a red mane, its whole body covered in sharp spikes. The red mist is a carnivorous animal living on a jungle planet. Its mane releases pheromones to threaten and induce hallucinations in enemies. Amorph stood there observing Sion. If she also had the ability to cause hallucinations like the red mist, he had to find a way to take her down before the effect of the psionium wore off. He felt a waver in his heart, but panic would change nothing. He had to stay calm and wait for the right moment to strike. Without thinking too much, he rushed towards her, while she laughed loudly in amusement. That's more like it. And so the two continued to clash.
Both were evenly matched. One punched the stomach, and the other, not being a pushover, punched Sihyun in the stomach. However, the tide seemed to turn in her favor as Sihyun used her sword to slash Amorph. She began to get angry, having no patience left. "I'm starting to get sick of you." Swords continuously struck Amorph, forcing him to retreat as Sihyun kept throwing them at him. Suddenly, a sword reflected back, aiming toward her. Amorph seemed to suddenly realize how to deal with Sihyun. So that's it. Perhaps I've found a way to deal with her. He observed her with a mind full of speculation. Perhaps Sihyun possessed the skills of all players, but like them, she had a fatal weakness. She could not use two skills simultaneously. Sihyun gritted her teeth impatiently, clicked her tongue, her voice annoyed and showing no restraint. "I find you extremely an eyesore now. Today you must definitely lose your life here." Amorph said nothing, silently planning to see how long it took her to switch abilities. No matter how fast she was, there had to be a gap, and that was the moment she was just a normal person, completely harmless. To gather more information, he changed his strategy. "Guess I have to change tactics." Gathering strength in his legs and springing forward, Amorph jumped high to unleash an attack, pressing the advantage to the very end. The scene shifts to Ameep. In her eyes, the world was just an extremely cold and incredibly heavy place. What intelligent creatures called the abyssal deep sea was actually this person's home. She was crawling towards somewhere, a harsh environment with low temperatures and high pressure, but she did not find it too bad. There was not just Ameep, but also many other creatures exactly like her, as she herself had always been protected by others. At the bottom of the sea, due to their low status, creatures like her were all eaten by others. They were very weak and had to live in fear their entire lives. That was the norm. To avoid becoming food herself, Ameep could only rely on herself. When she realized she possessed a special power, she used it to protect her kin from voracious predators. Gradually, Ameep became the leader. After a while, she also became the alpha, but life remained much the same. The image of creatures like Ameep huddled together, sharing food and sleeping with the herd was the greatest happiness in her life. But then, what was bound to happen, happened. However, she and her kin were sucked in by a device, and that happiness could not last long. Ameep's survival instinct surged when the screams of others rang in her ears. The desire within her burned up. As the alpha, she revealed her strength, hoping to fulfill the responsibilities of a leader. Ameep unleashed a move worthy of a leader to protect what she cherished. She thought everything was over, believing she had succeeded in saving everyone. But regrettably, a robotic hand grabbed her tight. Sadly, the truth was not so. Ameep's form was gradually distorted. No miracle appeared, only endless exhaustion. The scene shifts to Ameep inside a test tube. Years passed, and the alpha leader who failed to fulfill that duty finally woke up in a prison filled with foul-smelling liquid. Not only her, but many others, she witnessed it there. Standing there watching everyone disintegrating, Ameep could do nothing. They all disintegrated one by one, the painful deaths of those she was meant to protect. Kisaragi stood there holding the cat, laughing cruelly. When that human in the furry creature in her arms gave her the name 26, none of her kind in this prison were left alive. Only Ameep remained imprisoned at the very bottom of this hell. She prayed ceaselessly for someone, anyone to come and save her, and if they did, she was ready to sacrifice her entire life to protect them. Returning to the present, Amorph and Sayun Sujin continued their battle. She was angry and out of patience. "I am getting very tired of this." Meanwhile, he kept his head down and ran without looking back. Taking this opportunity, he unleashed another move. Sayun Sujin ran and provoked him at the same time. "You and your dirty tricks." Just then, he turned around and used his tentacles to counterattack. Sayun Sujin was lucky enough to dodge. Angered, she countered and sliced off a tentacle, but the severed tail sprayed out a strange liquid. A morph's tail continued to attack Sayun Sujin. She was not outdone and managed to dodge the attack. Sayun Sujin used her sword to counter, creating an arc that sliced Amorph's tail clean off. While she was dealing with that tail, he took the opportunity to use the remaining tail to spray liquid onto Sayun Sujin. It turned out that liquid was acid. Her outfit immediately began to melt away. She continued to throw a punch, but surprisingly, he managed to block it in time.
Perhaps a morph had anticipated her path. I had guessed she had some skill related to defense. Looking at her hot body was a bit surprising, but I didn't expect it to be the super alloy skin of a wolf from Goblin. Taking this opportunity, Sayun used her free hand to punch a morph's abdomen continuously. A dog biting its owner must be punished. The pain once again made him numb, knocking him backward. But a morph quickly regained his composure, focusing strength into his legs to prepare for a counterattack. If you want to defeat me, that much isn't enough. He jumped up, curling his tail around from behind, which surprised Sayun slightly, and used his hands to grip her shoulders tightly. Lifting Sayun above his head left her stunned. What the? Meanwhile, down below, a morph was lifting her while silently cursing. Damn it, this woman is heavy. The super alloy skin was equivalent to a set of super reinforced armor. A morph took a deep breath, as if gathering extra weight for his body. Using all his might, he threw Sayun hard against the wall. Maybe this is an opportunity for me. At this moment, she was extremely furious, losing all reason and gritting her teeth. That damn monster. Sayun manifested 2 swords in her hands, her face turning cold as she gathered all her strength to launch a move. Suddenly, gravity shifted. His entire body was crushed into the ground by gravity. Damn it. Sayun unleashed a barrage of sword strikes, continuously hitting a morph.
His entire body seemed covered in flames. He was now in a passive position. Thousands of fiery slashes cut into his flesh continuously, but he still tried to endure, waiting for an opportunity, just a little longer. Finally, the opportunity arrived. A morph seized the moment. The chance was here. Summoning all his strength, he rammed straight into her, but unfortunately, he only hit the wall. Siyun laughed loudly with an arrogant, haughty attitude. "Missed me." But she suddenly froze before the scene unfolding in front of her. The image in a morph's eyes changed. The situation had now shifted. "Sorry to disappoint you, but I didn't miss at all." Everything had been changing from the very beginning. His form had now changed. "You are not my target, Siyun Sujin." She quickly dragged her sword along the ground, her mouth not forgetting to shout, "Damn it."
Si-hyun turned her head back to look. At this moment, Amorph's gaze changed, making her face turn deadly pale. He reached out his hand, ready to end Si-hyun's life. "I have waited for this moment for a long time." She screamed as if sitting on fire, not wanting to leave this place. "I cannot die here." Si-hyun's sword had almost no strength left to hold on. She changed her state. She was forcing herself to use 2 skills at the same time, pushing herself to the very brink of death. That power seemed to want to pull Si-hyun towards Amorph. Seizing this opportunity, he counterattacked. Must take this chance to take her down before it's too late. Needles shot out, aiming at Si-hyun. Suddenly, she smiled incomprehensibly. A voice rang out, startling Si-hyun. "Do not touch the baby." It was Amip. She took this opportunity to suddenly counterattack. Just like that, the two combined. What the hell? An explosion rang out across the area. Her whole body was covered in red syrup, and she gradually lost consciousness. The final blow quickly knocked her out. Amip rushed towards Amorph, crying for help. "Baby, help me!" He reached out and grabbed her tight. As for his tail, it held onto Si-young. There was no way he would be defeated by them. He held on to both girls by himself. "Hey, don't let go, no way." Amorph felt a very strange aura in his tentacles. A stream of spiritual power just emitted from the tentacles. Could it be? He would think about it later. He had to find a way out of here first. Si-yeon's whole body was being dragged along. Amorph panted heavily. Each step was heavy as he walked and dragged Si-yeon. He remembered the ship had a puncture earlier. The maintenance system of this ship was annoying. Such a big hole, and yet it hadn't done anything about it. Amorph entered the password. If there were still people around, they would fix it immediately, or temporarily seal off the damaged area to stabilize it. The door opened, but now apart from the bandits, there was no one left, and he could bet they were busy hiding from him, so they wouldn't know what was happening. Seeing the unstable situation, Amorph hugged the two of them tightly. This ship was really done for. Noticing something wrong with his hand, Amip asked, "What's wrong with baby's hand? Hey, Looking at the hand, he didn't know when it had started to dissolve.
Even the tail faded away, everything returning to its original form. It seems the drug has worn off. The effects of psionium and the transformation are ending. Luckily, returning to the original form didn't hurt much. Amor felt a bit regretful. He had hoped it would last longer, but he changed his state. After all, he had obtained something important. The image of Sihin appeared along with a string of information. In this game, Megacorp holds about 1,000 genes. All are genes from rarely encountered creatures. Sihyun Sujin was an NPC at a level comparable to a real player, so she also held some decent genes. Lifting her body up, compared to swallowing those test subjects, this time he would probably get 3 genes at most. Looking down at his fingers, even 1 is fine, but hopefully it will be the Gallagher claws. Amorph turned back, opening his mouth wide, starting from her head. Let's see. Just as he finished consuming the head, his eyes suddenly lit up with realization. Amorph finally understood. That's right, there's still the bomb. He knelt down. Based on his predatory senses, he only had about 5 minutes left. That wouldn't be enough to neutralize it. Amorph speculated. He had to abandon this ship. He must find a way to reach the escape pod as quickly as possible. He ran quickly, calculating. But to cross the corridor to reach the runway area would take at least 5 minutes. There was no way he could make it in time. Amorph leaped high. There was only one way left. He jumped down in front of a weapon, that thing. Without thinking much, he grabbed it. Amorph was delighted with this weapon. Oh, shiny. Haha, that's right, shiny. He skillfully performed the operations, charging the plasma, setting it to the maximum level.
The system rang out 30%, 70%, 100%. A surge of power emitted. That light faded away. After that, he turned to remind Amorph, "Hey, hold on tight." "Okay." Having said that, Amorph jumped away, hugging the 2 women while holding a weapon. Amorph hugged both women tightly, the other hand gripping the weapon. The 3 escaped through the spatial depth that was there before. He turned his head slightly, and a tentacle protruded from his palm. The tentacle twisted tightly around a nearby iron bar. Thanks to it, the 3 gradually descended. The tentacle slowly untangled. Finally, they landed safely. Amorph knelt on one leg, then jumped a few more steps. Soon the runway was in sight. Great, almost at the runway.
Using 2 tentacles as leverage to save energy, Amorph raised the weapon and aimed tight at the target. A blinding light created a straight line. Once done, Amorph threw the weapon away. "Thanks, you've worked hard." As for Amip, it was delighted. So much fun. While moving, they saw an escape pod with its door open. There's an escape pod with an open door. Is someone planning to get on it to flee? So he landed where the ship was opening. Well, that saves me the time of figuring out how to open it. See if there's anything you can latch onto. Then latch on. Scene change. Elchin was dragging his steps. Damn it. Earlier I thought I was surely about to meet the king of hell. He gritted his teeth and cursed silently. Damn, my senses are back enough, but my eye. Recalling that moment, Elchin was trembling as he pressed down. Because one side of his heart was ruined, his whole body went into chaos. And on top of that, while disarming the bomb, he almost detonated it. The bomb is at the number 10. You damn monsters, don't dream of escaping my grasp. I adjusted the bomb to explode in 10 minutes.
Elchin smiled triumphantly. After he successfully escaped this ship, those 2 monsters would also turn into dust. Suddenly, everything became unusually silent. Why was it so quiet? Did one of them collapse? But Elchin didn't care much. Surely one is blind and the other crippled by now. Yusung Samuel saw him, suddenly stepped back and screamed, "Pirates?" Seeing him, Elchin judged. "Wearing this uniform, you must be Captain Yusung Samuel, right? Completely different from what that crazy man told me. You probably kept Sayurvalhistan because you couldn't abandon the ship, but now you think everything is fine, so you popped your head out." Yusung Samuel raised the gun. "Don't come near me," he trembled and threatened. "Otherwise I will shoot. This is a plasma gun." "Planning to use that to shoot me?" Elchin sneered. "Even if it's a plasma gun, unlock the safety catch before taking it out to threaten others." What safety catch?" Before he could react, Elchin knocked him away. Yusung Samuel fell flat on the ground. Then Elchin picked up the gun. "Idiot, but you did scare me a little bit." The words earlier were just to trick Yusung Samuel. "Hey, Captain, plasma guns don't actually have any safety catch." Then he stepped forward, pointing the gun at Yusung Samuel. "If I had time, I would skin you alive, but unfortunately I don't. Please spare me." Yusung Samuel trembled and begged. "I won't do anything. Please spare me. There's no need for this." Elchin, without a shred of mercy, pulled the trigger. Farewell.
Suddenly, the gun reacted strangely. It seemed the gun was actually a bomb. Elton was blown to smithereens. Only his feet remained standing there, while the rest was blown into 100 pieces. At this moment, cold sweat poured down Yusung Samuel, and he began to laugh. He laughed loudly, his voice full of triumph. "Damn pirate, you deserve to die." The beast within Yusung Samuel was revealed. "I am a descendant of the giant Titan, the eldest son of the Samuel family." He raised his hand triumphantly and asserted that he was invincible. But not long after, a massive explosion occurred. The escape pod luckily managed to escape in time.
Seeing that the situation didn't look good, "Baby, oh no," Amorph ran over. "Hey, are you okay?" Then he lifted Amip up. She was completely unconscious. He placed her on the cushion. That shockwave shouldn't be enough to cause critical injury, so she should wake up soon. Then he looked outside. The ship had now exploded into small debris. This was the first place he had set foot on when he appeared in this world. The large ship had finally been blown to smithereens. Amorph picked up a wine bottle. He observed the inside of the bottle. Did some guy come in here to guzzle wine? After looking, he threw the bottle away.
Feeling somewhat uneasy, he decided he must check the internal footage on this escape pod. He walked over to the keyboard and typed a few commands. On the screen, the image of Eusong Samuel sitting proudly while drunk began to play the internal footage. He was sitting there hugging the wine bottle. "Oh, it's Captain Eusong? Is he still alive?" Eusong Samuel, his face flushed red, continued to chug. It turned out that guy had been hiding in here getting plastered all this time, probably waiting for the situation to calm down before poking his head out. After drinking, he drunkenly stepped out to listen to the situation outside. Finding it too quiet, he felt it was strange and decided to go out to see what had happened. He continued watching the screen. Did that guy hope that the soldiers had killed him, or that some passing ship would save his life? Seeing nothing of importance, Amorph decided to delete the video. But it's none of my business anyway. The screen system displayed a notification. Internal footage deleted. Changing mode to navigation, switching to standby. Default set locations are displayed on the screen. An image of a globe model appeared. It was one of the planets under Megacorp's control. Usually, these places would have a large-scale garrison force. Upon seeing this, Amorph input the data. Must avoid them as much as possible. The place closest to the current location? Surely it's this place.
The location he chose was a planet surrounded by a large ring that looked very modern. To clarify, the TC Special Trading Station is a massive space colony drifting in the universe and is also where players in this game gather to trade. I also hunted them to acquire many more gene samples. Recalling this made Amorph sigh. Thanks to that, so many nicknames were born, the first being the cowardly bookworm Amorph. He shifted his position, but Amorph was naturally like that. What else could be done? Changing journey course. System notification. Destination. TC Special Trading Station. The relief ship began to move. After finishing, Amorph sat back in the chair to enjoy himself, switching to autopilot mode. The remaining time before landing was 3 hours. Done with that, he turned his chair around. A colony teeming with countless creatures would be a paradise for his development. Amorph walked over, but he looked at Amip, surprised that this little brat was actually a sea siren. Amip seemed to be sleeping. These creatures were similar in appearance, habitat, and enemies, differing only in size, probably because they were of the same species. Most humans were afraid of this species. The sea siren possessed a super strength trait called Deep Sea Terror, which could plunge humans within a certain range into extreme madness. Amorph bent down slightly to observe. This trait was similar to the red mist illusion, but could be activated whenever desired, had a wider range of influence, and its rarity was on par with Gallagher's claws. His hand reached out towards Amip. Perhaps this was his chance, but Amorph's hand pulled back. No, he tricked his brain into not allowing him to do so. Eating number 26 now wouldn't guarantee the predatory effect would activate, and he had grown quite fond of this brat. Amorph rubbed Amip. Come to think of it, it was quite useful. He would try his best to help number 26 until his last breath. Then he turned towards Sayun. Better to just observe her for now. Hunger began to take over. He had to take the opportunity to finish off her body. He opened his mouth wide. Next is Si-hyun's leg. He tore off one of her legs forcefully, opening his mouth to take the first bite. Suddenly, his eyes widened, pupils constricting. An extremely ecstatic pleasure, numbing and absolutely fantastic, washed over him. Next is the arm. Kisaragi Yujin's flavor was like a high-class dish elaborately prepared, so I thought Si-hyun Sijin would be the same, but it turned out otherwise. Next is the neck. The more I chewed, the more I could feel the deliciousness of the meat fibers. I swear, she is tastier than anything else in the world. In no time, Si-hyun's entire body was devoured clean, except for the head. It was just me and the unconscious 26 there, so no one could disturb this delicious meal. The system continuously popped up notifications. Predatory effect activated. Successfully collected biological trait X-ray vision from Si-hyun Sujin. Do you want to apply X-ray vision? Do you want to apply camouflage skin? Predatory effect activated. Successfully collected biological trait Gallagher's claws from Si-hyun Sujin. Do you want to apply Gallagher's claws? A planet appeared before the eyes, the capital planet of the Star River Alliance, Zex-01. A robot cat stood under the heavy rain, poking its head out to look outside. Not far away, everyone was buzzing with discussion. They were raising their hands in a formal salute. On the screen was the Commander-in-Chief. Everyone greeted Commander-in-Chief Tsubaka in unison. He is the father of all machines. Tsubaka is everywhere. Even now, he is watching us and leading the Star River Association to the path of glory. In front of the cat, a device rang out. There was the sound of footsteps approaching. The footsteps stopped, replaced by the sound of a button being pressed. The experiment lid was gradually opening. The glass began to open wider. A hand reached up. That person was none other than Si-hyun. She coughed a few times and then gasped for breath. Looking at the naked body, Si-hyun was slightly surprised. Was this a spare body? Si-hyun was slightly surprised. She didn't expect she would need a clone body. She stepped down. The feeling was not like the original. Si-hyun walked up to the mirror. She called the system. Display the genetic settings of this body. But the system could not update. Warning, some genes were not updated. Current genetic information is displayed as follows. Si-hyun angrily punched the mirror. The genes she had collected were all lost, and the plan was gone too. She swore in disbelief. That son of a bitch, if I see you again, I'll rip your head off. Switching to another setting, the special trading center at the port area. There, someone was listening to music. It was Carpenter, seemingly on duty nearby. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the other end. Hey, Carpenter, are you free? He woke up. What is it? Why do you ask? They announced that Sector 7 had just received an escape pod from Megacorp. The control tower had made contact, but received no response. Carpenter could only sigh. Who's skipping work this time? The information received was very suspicious. The ship was in autopilot mode, so there might be trouble. He accepted. All right, I'll check it out. Carpenter drove his vehicle towards that location, wondering where this one came from. Moments later, the vehicle arrived. He stepped closer and realized, looks expensive. Then he plugged a device into that suspicious ship. Immediately, the door opened for Carpenter to inspect. He looked inside. Why is it so dark? Why aren't the lights on? Shining his light around, he discovered a puddle of white slime.
Carpenter's hand touched it, curiously checking, what is this? But then he realized where the source came from. An morph appeared right above Carpenter. A while later, his colleague was looking everywhere. Hey, where's Carpenter? Oh, Carpenter, he came in early today. A weird guy, but he said he needed more money to buy a new house. Just then, the guy next to him saw him. Speak of the devil. The white guy called out Carpenter's name. Hey, Carpenter. It seemed he felt something. It was definitely him, but something was strange. What was he standing there for? Maybe it was just wandering thoughts. Something wasn't quite right. Was I overthinking it? The white guy asked, Hey, I thought you were working the late shift today. You're heading back already? Carpenter replied, I have some business. He asked further, Did the leader say anything? He replied and turned away. I reported I was busy and he approved my leave. The colleague looked visibly annoyed. What's with that guy's way of speaking? But the other one ignored it. Let it be. The two of them laughed and guessed blindly. Maybe he just lost money or something today. There was the sound of a stranger's footsteps. That person was walking forward step by step. He emitted an aura of darkness, and that person was none other than a morph. Inside, he smiled with satisfaction, not expecting his new trait to be this fun to use. With the combination from Si-hyun and the mimicry skill, I know things that even the rankers don't know. Combining the camouflage skin obtained from Si-hyun Sujin in mimicry, I obtained the mimicry organ. A morph's face was half human, half demon. This organ would analyze the victims I consumed and secrete a special pheromone that disrupted the senses of other creatures, simultaneously making me appear as a victim in their eyes. The two faced each other. At a glance, this trait seemed invincible, but it had just as many downsides. Pheromones had no effect on cameras or mirrors, so my identity would be exposed immediately in those instances. His face was filled with murderous intent, leaving the opponent confused. Furthermore, the uncanny valley effect would create a creepy feeling for others. The effectiveness of the mimicry took a long time and was hard to explain. Amorph clenched his hand tightly. Everything had clear pros and cons, but it was still something he could utilize effectively. He raised the sword in a style similar to Si-hyun. I also obtained the Gallagher claws I had desired for so long. Amorph ran fast, but since it was similar to Amorph's super senses, it couldn't be used much yet. The super trait X-ray refraction would be beneficial for combinations later on.
Accompanying the tentacles on my neck, I was very surprised to possess the rare monster tentacle mutation variant. Suddenly, a bunch of tentacles sprouted from the back of my head. The image of a massive dragon. They looked like the tentacles sprouting from the mouth of a Gallagher, also known as the space dragon. Holding a meep tightly with both hands, I didn't know why it was like this, but they were definitely better weapons than claws. I have to thank Si-hyun Sujin for this. Getting closer to a meep's tuft of hair, now I already have 4 traits related to super strength. I just need super resistance, and right after reaching the adolescent state, I can get another type of super strength. Suddenly, she spoke up. Baby can't breathe. He bent down and whispered, Hush, try to endure it a bit, okay? After speaking, he ran deep into the narrow corridor. By the way, I've been to this place in the game many times, but this is the first time I've actually set foot here. Looking up, the TC Special Trading Center. As magnificent as it looks on the outside, it is just as rotten on the inside. That's why I chose this place. Here is some information. It is divided into 4 areas and a central management area. Business District, Residential District, Central Management District, Port District, and Entertainment District. The Entertainment District and Residential District have the lowest security levels.
Next is the Entertainment District, a place where Megacorp residents relieve stress using rental slaves. Combat robots patrol the surroundings to arrest criminals. Finally, there is the Residential District. The Residential District is located near the slums, where the lowest class residents live. If someone suddenly disappears here, no one finds it strange. Arriving at the Residential District, a morph jumped quickly.
The residential district, this will be it. As long as I watch out for the robots that occasionally patrol this place, it will be fine. He stopped at a building. Now the problem is how to get there. There are many people here. I could go via the sewers or the underground subway. Both were built when the city was constructed. However, there is a big problem here. It looks like there's no water inside, so it's highly likely that the sewer system is undergoing large-scale maintenance. A morph transformed into a human form. If this were a game, I would choose the sewer route, but this is reality. It's a pity, but I have to choose the underground subway. He continued to glide forward. The passage I used to use is probably somewhere around here. He glanced into an alley. At this moment, a morph smirked slightly.
Down the alley was a mysterious door. Found it. Then he transformed into the amorph, using its power to turn the gate. Opening the gate to peek inside, the amorph just walked right in. The amorph quickly rushed down. Only he knew about this place. The monster roared furiously. At the Port Wildlife Smuggling Monitoring Office, the people around were using all their strength to hold the restraining ropes on the monster. One of them spoke up. "Big Sis, we can't hold on any longer. Where's the containment team? Get the tranquilizer gun out here." Big Sis screamed. "Which idiot brought this mountain crawler in here?" Lot walked in from the outside, looking like he didn't care at all. She shouted annoyedly, "You crazy Lot, don't you see anything?" Lot replied calmly, "That's it, Big Sis, I'm going home." Hearing that, Big Sis was furious. "Everyone is stuck here because of the monster, and you say you're leaving?" Lot smiled. "I'm not working overtime. Good luck, everyone." Then he waved goodbye, ignoring her screaming. "Get back here, you selfish brat." At the Special Trading Center entertainment area, Lot arrived. The system at the center immediately issued a greeting. "Welcome to the Special Entertainment Room, where all your fantasies come to life."
He looked at the system screen, secretly thinking, who should I choose today? Lot thought with amusement. That girl looks just like my grumpy female colleague. Lot pointed at the screen, where a short-haired girl appeared. It seemed she also came here to play often. He licked his lips and spoke up, "Choose her." After a while, a hand covered in syrup washed at the sink. Lot laughed grotesquely. Felt better than I thought. He paced back and forth, thinking, was that too much for her? After thinking for a moment, he said again, "The shop will clean it up anyway." On the bed, a girl's eyes had rolled back white, her body covered in syrup. Lot thought the payment was fully settled, then presented his card for verification. The system chimed, "Thank you for using our service." He walked down the stairs. Now that his body was satisfied, his mouth was craving alcohol. Having a drink and then sleeping seemed like a solid plan, so he decided to buy 2 bottles on the way back. A high-speed train whooshed past. Lot leisurely walked to the door, but noticed something and looked over with confusion. He cursed aloud. Damn it! Who broke all the streetlights? The back of Lot's hand switched to flashlight mode, his mouth still muttering. So annoying. He used his hand to shine the light forward. Shining his light while thinking, he wondered when he would finally escape this dump. After walking a bit, Lot felt annoyed. Damn it, what is this smell? He ignored it and kept walking, but deep down he still felt uneasy, not knowing why, but he didn't like it one bit. His train of thought continued. He had to hurry. Lat didn't notice a figure dressed in white standing nearby. A morph spoke up, startling Lat. "Hey there?" Half of a morph's body was submerged in darkness as he asked Lat, "Where are you going?" Lat replied, "I'm going home." He asked tentatively, "It's too dark here. Can I walk with you?" Lat looked at him for a moment and agreed. "Follow me." A morph hurriedly said, "Thank you." The sound of footsteps echoed one after another. A morph called out, "Hey." Lat shone his light and replied, "What?" A morph asked Lat, "Are you a robot?" Lat nodded in response. Suddenly, he let out a soft chuckle from behind. "I see." Lat spun around, thinking, what is this? Is that guy trying to mock a robot for living in the Megacorp zone? His mouth gaped in shock. A morph was holding a lump of flesh in his hand. Seeing it squirm, Lat screamed, "What is that?" He shone his light on the creature, thinking, my colleague once told me about this high-level creature. He said it only likes to take human heads to play with. His legs trembled. If he didn't do something now, he would become its victim too.
His inner mind screamed, "Run!" Lot just buried his head and ran. Amor's face darkened, a stream of black aura slowly radiating from his body. He reverted to his monster form, thinking, he ran away, but I can roughly guess the reason. He looked at the creature in his hand. The creature squirmed and said, "Baby, he's scared of me." Amorph was puzzled. "Why is that?" The creature replied, "I don't know." He thought, the moment he saw number 26, his heart rate spiked to the max immediately. Why would he be that scared? Spherical amoebas are famous for their cute appearance. Amorph's train of thought continued. Well, number 26 is a mutant variant, but it doesn't look that different from the normal ones. He looked at number 26 in his hand with a sad expression. How could someone be terrified of such a cute creature? I really can't understand that robot guy. Suddenly he realized, aha, he is a robot, isn't he? Amorph calculated. The psionium effect is worn off, and I've reverted to the juvenile state. I need to eat more robots to evolve into the adult state. That's all it takes. On the other side, Lot ran for his life, not daring to look back.
He rushed towards the door. Lot opened it and entered without hesitation. Then he slammed the door shut, ignoring everything. Snap. Lot popped open a water bottle and guzzled it down. He leaned against the wall and let out a sharp breath. I almost met my ancestors there. He wearily walked over to the bed, deciding to report on it tomorrow. Then he flopped down onto the bed. Lot grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. As he watched, he grumbled, "It's just the same old stuff playing over and over, boring me to death."
His sighing voice drifted out. If I had enough money now, I'd move the hell out of this place immediately. A morph with hungry eyes looked up at the glowing window. Lat cursed aloud as he walked. Damn it, what kind of superior is that? He gritted his teeth in anger, thinking that it was because that woman intended to send him to the mountains that he had to work overtime like this. Also, thanks to her, he had to waste time going to the shop to relieve stress. He stopped. But I already reported that guy. Lat looked around, observing. Surely he wouldn't be waiting right in front of my door, right? Feeling safe, he continued walking. Afraid of being suddenly snatched, he kept looking around warily. This far away, it must be safe. Worrying all this time has made my throat dry. Just as he turned up to the floor, Lat heard a noise. He just needed to get home to drink to his heart's content. He couldn't believe his eyes. A morph was standing in front of his room, trying to crack the password. He managed to open Lat's door. A morph used his tail to slam the door open and entered. On this side, Lat trembled as he called the police.
A voice spoke from the other end of the line. "Hello, residential police station speaking." He trembled uncontrollably. "Hello, it seems there is a monster in my house." By this time, a morph had already entered inside. He surveyed the surroundings of the house. As he walked, a morph thought, "This place is too small. The structure is quite like a studio apartment." He dropped the creature onto Lot's bed. Every corner looks disgusting, except for this bed. Does he like to sleep like a noble? A morph calculated his moves. Since he had decided to hunt robots, he should at least conduct some preliminary research. Throughout the day, he had checked to see if there was anyone else in this apartment, and at the same time discovered many potential prey. Images of a blue-skinned person with scales and 2 tentacles on their head, reptilians, cold-blooded types. A wolf bearing its fangs appeared, beastmen, werewolves, and many more. A diagram for a morph to develop efficiently appeared. To reach the subadult stage, he had to eat even more species, totaling 60 species capable of mimicry, and 4 additional species would be enough. He looked out the window. Many players quit right at this part, which could also be called a wise choice, because after reaching the subadult stage, the evolution conditions would be even more numerous. A morph observed the towering buildings. In the special trading center, there would naturally be many alien species, so collecting genes would be easier. At this point, he remembered the coup. Furthermore, Megacorp had diplomatic relations with the coup, so there would certainly be countless coup in the administrative area. A morph bared his fangs and licked his lips as he thought. Gathering enough 60 is only a matter of time. Finalizing his decision, he went to continue his inspection. Great, since he had to stay here for a while anyway, he might as well check the surroundings. Passing by the partition, the sound of neighbors rang out. The soundproofing was not very good, and noises from the next room and the floor above echoed clearly.
Thanks to that, a morph realized that clearly no one was living down below. A morph used sound waves to sense the presence of people. In the corridor, someone was heading this way. He could clearly see the number and faces. In total, there were 3 people, that cyborg and 2 police officers. A morph held out his hand and called softly, "Come here." The creature jumped back hurriedly. "What is it, baby?" Then he pulled them both away. "There is work to do. I don't intend to cause trouble with the authorities yet, so let's just observe the situation for now." The police officer asked, "Lat, did a monster enter the house?" He replied, "Yes." The police officer pondered for a long while, then turned and said, "The door is still intact." Lot shouted, "I told you it picked the lock to get in." The police officer looked at the bag of alcohol in silence. "I understand." Then the officer asked, "Is that alcohol in your hand?" Lot was surprised. The police officer checked the computer. "I checked the records. Last night, you also reported nonsense about seeing a stranger." Then he asked Lot, "You were drunk, aren't you?" making him grit his teeth in annoyance. Lot looked at the police officers with resentment. These guys, if they weren't government officials, I would have stabbed each of them once already. The police requested Lot, "Please open the door for us to check." Lot reached out to open the door. "Yes." The 2 police officers went inside. One officer sneered, "Looks like a pigsty." Lot clutched the bag, trembling with anger. One officer shone a light into a large jar and covered his nose. The other opened the fridge filled with beer. Then the 2 officers concluded, "Seems like there are no signs of anything unusual." This made Lot panic. "No, how can that be?" he shouted. "I clearly saw it with my own eyes. Has anyone else in the other houses reported anything?" The 2 officers put their hands on their hips and sneered. "If you were a robot, you should replace your eyes." The 2 officers calmly continued, "You're the only one who called to report. Drink less alcohol."
Lot couldn't believe it. No, that's impossible. Hearing this, the police officers also got annoyed and didn't intend to continue.
The two policemen turned their backs and left. Anyway, we have confirmed that there is nothing unusual. You probably don't need us to stay any longer, right? Lat ran after them, calling out, "Wait, hold on." The police said, "If anything else happens, just call us." Lat stood frozen on the spot. He turned pale and sweated. Did I really see it wrong? He paced back and forth, thinking, or did it go away? Lat bit his lip, his face pale. Then he turned his back, ignoring it. Tsk! He flopped down onto the bed, reaching out to pop open a water bottle. Lat gulped it down. Could it be that my body has degraded? Now I'm even hallucinating. He said loudly, "Ah, feels so good." Just as he finished speaking, the sound of breaking glass rang out. Lat lay sprawled on the bed, thinking, tomorrow I will call that girl who looks like the female manager over. He laughed pervertedly. I will take care of her all the way. A noise coming from somewhere caught his attention. Lat frowned in annoyance. What the hell is that guy downstairs doing at this hour? Why not do it during the day? Suddenly he realized, wait. He broke out in a sweat, realizing there is no one downstairs. Slowly he turned around, then looked down under the bed. Amorph had appeared at his feet. He roared, "It's feeding time." Lat was so scared that tears gushed out. After that, there was only the sound of munching. Screams echoed to the neighbors. The neighbor couldn't sleep and got angry. He ran out, slammed the door open, and shouted loudly, "You damn brat, you can't escape this time."
His hand banged loudly on the door. "Hey, you idiot, show your face out here." He was choked by a strange smell. What is this smell? As soon as it opened, the smell assaulted his nose. He shouted, "Hey, you! It's late at night. Why are you still making so much noise?" Before he could finish his sentence, "Who the hell are you?" he froze. Lot, who had now been transformed into by Amorph, spoke up to apologize. The neighbor looked at his strange face and thought, what's wrong with this guy? He grumbled, "Cough, cough. It's late already. Pay attention and keep it down." Amorph replied, "I will be more careful." The neighbor waved his hand and walked away from the door. "As long as you understand, I'm counting on you." Amorph looked silently in his direction. He laughed maniacally. The next target is that guy. Amorph held the door and stepped in to tour Lot's house. He looked around. Creature number 26 was raiding the fridge, eating voraciously. "I'm hungry, let's eat." Amorph saw this and said, "Just eat plenty." He held Lot's leg and thought, I need to finish processing the rest of this too.
He kept chewing the pieces, but internally he was complaining. This was the second most disgusting meal of his life. The smell of alcohol mixed right into the lean meat. He kept eating and grumbling. It seemed that freshness and taste were related, but for the sake of evolution, he had to grit his teeth and endure it. Just as he chewed a few pieces, the system appeared. Oh, here it comes. He looked at the system and silently said to himself, I should have finished this on the Megacorp research ship. It's taken so long. Amorph looked at the creature and said, I'm going to turn into an egg for a while. The creature wondered, an egg? It jumped down and said, You're still a larva. How can you turn into an egg? He explained, to become bigger. He patted the creature's head. It asked, from a larva to a bigger larva? Amorph comforted it. That's right, don't worry. Amorph turned and said, You eat the rest. Then he touched the screen with his hand. All right, let's start. The system activated, and he secretly rejoiced. The power of the sub-adult form, the power he had once briefly experienced thanks to psionium, it was finally time to enjoy it fully. Amorph began to transform. He turned into a pink cocoon. Number 26 approached to observe. When I escaped that foul confinement room, I swore that at all costs I would protect this little creature. It walked around and said, but until now, instead of protecting him, I've always had to hide under his protection. That truth tormented him. It reached out a tentacle to touch the cocoon. If only my body were bigger, or these tentacles were stronger.
The creature touched the cocoon to sense it. Internal changes appeared in its mind. Amidst the jumbled thoughts, right at the moment the tentacles touched the child's cocoon, a strange source of energy transmitted from the tip of the tentacles and permeated the body. The tentacles rose within the abundant flow of energy. Then, as if having just absorbed an extremely nutritious type of food, I felt satiated and power began to surge. The creature emitted an extremely strong energy. I was overwhelmed with joy. This time, I could definitely protect the child. A black face appeared. That was Amorph. Amorph in human form. This place is... He looked at his hands and thought, these are my hands from when I was human. I see.
He stepped forward one step at a time. So this was his deep inner world. Black aura radiated all over Amorph. What the hell were the game developers thinking when they created Amorph? A game for real-time PK, yet it immobilizes the player for 6 hours. This isn't just a minor bug, it's a fatal loophole in the game. He thought for a while and wondered, Or maybe it was due to this dark space, bringing back all these unhappy memories. A dark shadow appeared near him. Amorph looked at the monster body in front of him. This was perhaps the remnant of Amorph still left in his body. Looking for a while, he realized it wasn't exactly scary. As he thought this, he reached out his hand towards it, feeling strangely familiar. When Amorph touched the monster's forehead, a burst of power erupted. Amorph had merged back with the monster. His senses had returned, meaning the evolution process was complete. Although there was nothing new, the feeling was satisfying. He opened the system to check the status panel. A series of new functions appeared. There was this new item.
The screen displayed a message, a new unread message. This didn't exist back when I ate psionium, did it? He realized this seemed to be a new system, appearing only during the official evolution. Well, let's select yes then. The screen displayed that the new system had been unlocked. Amorph skeptically touched yes, wondering if the new version had changes. After selecting, a series of notifications appeared. The transcendental system fuses 3 or more currently owned traits to create a completely new unique trait. The new trait obtained will be one that has never existed before. List of available traits: chitin exoskeleton, taiju skeleton, leg strength. Supplementary note: not everything is an advantage. Please choose carefully. Amorph watched intently. Transcendental system, huh? In the game, there was no such thing as trait fusion like this. You could only combine one-on-one. A train of thought appeared. If one keeps accumulating skills, players might even forget which traits they own. Even I had over 500 traits towards the end of the game. Amorph continued reading the notifications. Even a Morph fanatic like me almost went crazy. Who would have thought they would fix it this way? His eyes narrowed. The problem was, if he fused traits belonging to the physical system now, he wouldn't meet the requirements, and the physical enhancement system would be disabled. Amorph calculated. The psionic enhancement system had already been penalized by 6 points. If he gained more physical traits later, due to the penalty, the points required for the psionic system would increase from 6 to 12. His interest suddenly waned. Those unique traits were tempting, but the risk was too great. He would put the transcendental system aside for now. He reached out his hands. The unique traits sounded attractive, but as water bubbles rose up, he knew that at times like this, he had to be even more cautious.
The cracks on the wall were dense. Even if it took more time, taking the safe route was better. Utilizing the transcendent system could wait until enough physical traits had been accumulated. There was movement outside the cocoon. Amorph punched through the cocoon from the inside. He broke out and emerged, possessing a newly upgraded body. He felt his new physique. He had visibly grown taller. Lied. No, the previous form was just temporary. He observed the creature.
There was an extra tentacle swaying on its body. Did it grow another tentacle? He picked it up. It looked completely different from before. At first, it was only the size of a human head, but now it had grown this big. What on earth had happened? Amorph asked it, "What is this?" It wriggled. "This thing? It grew on its own." He was suspicious. "Since when?" It replied excitedly, "Since I touched the egg with you inside." He stared at the tentacle. This was likely the sawtooth tentacle of a sea anemone. Just a light touch would be enough to tear through flesh. Then looking at the broken cocoon, he thought, it said it touched the cocoon while he was evolving. Could it be that it absorbed a portion of the energy generated from that process? The creature said happily, "With this, I can protect you." Hearing that, he patted its head. "Well, I guess it's fine." Amorph remembered this creature's fully evolved state. The sea anemone he saw in the game was a giant sub-middle rank monster with a body over 20 meters long and hundreds of tentacles. Having such a creature as an ally was indeed reassuring.
He stroked the creature. He didn't intend to give it his genes, but sharing some leftovers was fine. Amorph went to find food. "Let's go eat." The creature also replied, "Yeah." He licked his lips excitedly and concluded, "The next target is the house next door. A hearty meal is waiting for us." In outer space, a series of spaceships were flying. To protect one's status, one must ceaselessly move forward. The slogan of TC originally stemmed from an insurance company in New York. Instead of fighting for finite lands, I chose the path of expansion and pioneering the development of space colonies. Satellites collected data. With the orientation of exploring a new continent instead of Earth, they poured huge amounts of money into developing artificial habitats and terraforming technology. Ground receiving stations, starting from space stations in the solar system, the terraforming of Mars, and the construction of orbital habitats, they gradually expanded their foundation. One of the achievements of that process was the first space city, the bridge between the solar system and the outer universe, the TC Special Trading Center, with a diameter of up to 60 kilometers. Thanks to that, today countless races from the outside have visited this historic structure of humanity.
Special Trading Center, Administrative District, Memorial Tower. A hand rested on the keyboard. Human Resources Management Team, I demand an explanation regarding the 3% drop in supplies and materials. The thing is, she continued, it seems production on Farming Planet Z101 and Livestock Planet P82 has decreased. I understand, we can allocate up to 20% of the staff to the Entertainment District, but we cannot ignore a 3% loss in supply. Pizarro trembled. What you say is true, but... The blonde lady opposite her listed out the facts.
40% of the Special Trading Center's revenue comes from the entertainment district. If the Human Resources Management team cuts supply by 3%, the entertainment district will have no choice but to bear that deficit. She asked Pizarro, Vice Director, Miss Pizarro, do you know what is most important for a merchant? Pizarro moved her lips slightly. Is it integrity? The blonde lady replied calmly, Of course, that is also an important factor. The blonde lady's face turned serious. But the most important thing is trust. This time we might use special circumstances as an excuse, but what if we lose credibility because of it? Her sharp gaze fixed on Pizarro. These are all guests who have traveled a long way to get here. If we disappoint them once, they will never return. Do you understand what I mean? Pizarro bowed deeply. Yes, I will etch this into my heart. The tense atmosphere made everyone around sweat. The blonde lady said, As you know, this is an extremely critical time. The first board of directors meeting will be held here.
The blonde lady ordered, There will be a huge influx of tourists flooding into this city. Not even the slightest error is allowed to happen. Is that clear? Everyone answered in unison. Yes. A series of orders were issued continuously, immediately contacting the management of both planets. Tell them they must meet the quotas, even if they have to use aphrodisiacs. Yes. Good. Next is the entertainment district. I always have high expectations for you. Please present. Yes. The blonde lady sighed wearily. Whew, she rubbed her head tiredly. Even if she could clone herself, she couldn't handle it all. But if this succeeds, the position of clan head will not be far away anymore. In TIG, there exist two families, Thompson and Chamberlain. This is a system where the winner of the competition will become the clan head of TIG. Upon becoming the leader, that person will monopolize all rights and benefits of TIG within Megacorp. She thought, since the Chamberlain family has held the clan head seat for many generations, the Thompson family members are sitting on fire. The blonde lady clenched her fist in determination. If the Thompson family snatches the successor seat, blood will definitely be spilled. Pizarro entered and reported, Miss, excuse me, I have brought the list of VIPs requesting a tour on the day of the event. The blonde lady turned around. Ah, thank you. The blonde lady reviewed the documents.
She heard something unexpected from Pizarro that made her frown. The blonde lady immediately turned and asked, Akira Sujin is attending too? Pizarro replied, Yes, the Sujin family contacted us an hour ago. The blonde lady rubbed her forehead. He won't be participating in the board meeting, but is just coming as a tourist. Sigh. Then she tapped on the keyboard. A usurper, yet he dares. Information about a man appeared on the screen. He was called a usurper and criticized for being the only one in the capital's nobility to become a clan head through a rebellion. An image of him capturing someone appeared. He had murdered Jang Sujin, who was originally supposed to be the clan head, and turned his daughter into his own shadow. Next were images of that person's dismembered body parts. He also ruthlessly killed or tortured members of the capital's nobility, and even his own family without flinching. She stared at his picture and frowned. He was a psychopath, but extremely capable. So after Jang Sujin's death, the Sujin family had prospered more than ever. The blonde lady assessed her own strength. A monster who has dominated Megacorp in the Sujin family for nearly 100 years. If I confront him head-on, I will definitely lose miserably. She angrily turned off the screen, but I cannot back down here. She stood up and asked how long until the next appointment. Pizarro reported, 10 minutes left, ma'am. Pizarro followed behind and continued reporting that today's schedule included inspecting the key facilities and the security system of the administrative area during the board meeting. The blonde lady was determined. Failure is the mother of success. Even if I don't win, I'll just consider it as accumulating or experience. Carrying the pure aura of Tig, she was not afraid of competition or challenges. She thought that even if she lost, she could always stand up and try again. But little did she know. In the room of the neighbor, Lat, red syrup splattered everywhere. He spewed red syrup from his mouth profusely. Within his territory, a terrifying threat had taken root without him knowing. A morph was attacking him. The creature held a limb and chewed voraciously. A morph exclaimed, "Pretty tasty."
He walked into another room. They must clean this place regularly. It was spotless. Compared to that cyborg's nest, this place looked much more like a place for humans to live. He looked at the corpse on the floor and thought. But more importantly, the neighbor was already asleep, lying in a mess of syrup. Although he really wanted to devour this fresh meat right now, there was still work to be done. Then he turned around. "I'm going over to the house next door for a bit." The creature replied, "All right, be careful." A morph walked away eagerly. First, he had to finish the remaining tasks. Where was the communication device? He picked up the phone. Oh, here it is. A morph operated it continuously. The cyborg's name was Lass. Let's check his work contacts. That bastard. Is it this guy? Then he found a phone number. Well, what employee doesn't hate their boss? He dialed the number. The person on the other end picked up and immediately shouted, "Hey, Lass, you son of a bitch, what the hell are you doing at a critical time like this?" A morph mimicked Lass's voice. "I quit." The other side shouted even louder. "What? Are you crazy?" He didn't bother caring. "That's it. Piss off."
The person on the other end shouted annoyingly, "Hey, you idiot, I knew this day would come." He ignored it and hung up. He looked at the screen, calculating. They'll probably forget everything by tomorrow, but I have to make it clear. Sending a resignation letter from the laptop to his company will be the perfect finishing touch. Then he opened Lat's laptop to investigate. All right, let's investigate a bit about Lat. Amorph typed on the keyboard, clack, clack. Confiscation records from the wildlife smuggling monitoring team. Just glancing through, I already see so many things. A series of information about Lat appeared. If I devour this whole bunch, I'll obtain a massive gene warehouse. Surely they monitor it very strictly. He smiled slyly. If I use Lat's voice to call an employee over, devour him, and then forge the transport documents, I could easily steal 1 or 2. But if I want more, I need a broker. Information about the areas appeared on the screen. There were quite a few shipments with empty recipient fields. It seemed some broker had intercepted the goods midway. He finished reviewing the information and closed the laptop. For now, I'll just use Lat's identity to try contacting a broker to see. If the negotiation doesn't work out, I'll just devour that guy, assume his form, and go intercept the goods myself. Amorph walked and thought, that's Cyborg. His name is Lat, right? This guy really left behind a lot of useful things. If only he tasted a bit better, it would have been perfect.
The creature was enjoying the neighbor's flesh. Amorph spoke up. Baby, you're back? Amorph looked at the neighbor's corpse. I'm not eating that. The creature angrily said, don't be so picky. As he spoke, he yanked the man's leg off. Then I'll just take the leg. You eat the rest. The creature asked, really? He nodded. Yeah, go ahead and eat it all. The creature immediately agreed. All right. He took the leg elsewhere. I'm going to find something tastier to eat. Amorph put it in the fridge. For now, I'll just store this leg in the fridge. After I'm done using Lass's identity, I'll have to impersonate this guy. He picked up the phone to search for a target. Now, who should I call? Scrolling through his contacts, it seemed this guy didn't socialize much. He scrolled continuously. Someone who might know a broker. Besides the boss, there's no one else. But if the person in charge disappears, it'll cause a big scene, so that's not a good choice. He thought while scrolling. I need someone who, even if they disappear, will be quickly forgotten. A name caught Amorph's attention. Someone contacted very frequently, named Lloyd. He stroked his chin. Must be a friend who shares Lass's secret hobbies that no one else knows about. Wait, a special brothel?
This place is famous in the Special Trading Center, even in the game. It was once on the news and frequently caused scandals regarding ethical issues. He stared intently at the screen again. Anyway, if he is the type of person who delights in such immoral things, perhaps he knows a bit about the broker world. Amorph entered the message history and started texting. They were still in contact as of yesterday. It seems their relationship is quite close. Let's see. The other guy replied, So you really quit? The old boss is furious. What happened? Amorph texted back, I'm bored, planning to find another place to work. The message exchange continued. Yeah, the job really is shit. Where do you plan to go? After all, I'm only suited for jobs like this. I'll just do something similar. Amorph looked at the message thoughtfully. Similar, huh? Yeah, smuggling and things like that. If they talked for too long, the guy might get suspicious. He had to wrap this up as quickly as possible. He frowned. Didn't you say before that you wouldn't get involved in dangerous jobs? The other guy messaged. That's true, but... He immersed himself in the messages to extract information. Come on, do you think starting now will be any good? After thinking it through, I see no other way to make money. I will try, even if I have to start from now. Ah, all right. I will send the information via mail to you. Hey, by the way, why don't we meet up today for a drink?
The other guy asked, meet up? Amorph typed back, I have a bar in the Port District. Don't tell me you're treating. You're not that kind of person. Since I quit my job, I can at least treat a colleague to a drink, right? Amorph continued the conversation. Wow, quitting your job makes you look much more like an adult. Fine, what time shall we meet? How about 9 p.m.? The bar is located at the edge of the Port District. Amorph felt happy as his calculations were falling into place. Great, just on my way back. Thinking about having to go to the bar alone from now on makes me feel sad. He used his hand to crush the skull. You won't be lonely, because you'll soon follow Ghost Lass anyway. He held the phone happily. All right, the date is set. Now what should I do to kill time? The creature, feeling bloated, ground, so full. Amorph rubbed the creature's belly. It was still small and needed to get enough sleep.
He opened his laptop to search. Before meeting Lloyd, he could read through the confiscation records. Wow, there's even Mutant Crow WL. He was startled. Hey, they even caught outspacers? How on earth did they manage that? Amorph calculated. There were 20 of them, and their destination was empty. This meant the outspacers were still here. Images of one-eyed creatures appeared. Outspacer, true to its name, is an alien race from the very edge of the universe. If the Amorph was inspired by Alien, then these guys are exactly like the Zerg from some ancient game. If you choose this race, you become a hive queen, absorbing the genes of other creatures and strengthening your soldiers. Amorph crossed his arms. It's a slow-developing race like the Amorph, but its operation is completely different. Even so, I still prefer the Amorph. He typed on the keyboard. The quantity is small, but they aren't samples, so I can aim for the predatory effect. First, I must get these ones, and besides that, after reading, he scratched his chin. There aren't many species with more than 10 individuals. I might not receive many traits even if I eat them all. Finishing up, he closed the laptop.
That depends on luck. Then he turned to leave. It's better to act now. The creature saw this and jumped along. Baby, what is it? Amorph replied. We're going out for a bit. It asked. Where to? Amorph grabbed it. You'll know when we get there. Amorph prepared to gain momentum, rushing forward madly. He used his tail to move continuously. He went up to a clearing to scout. Amorph let out a breath. He looked at the city in front of him and said, Good, it's time to hunt. Amorph sprang forward.
He leaped onto the buildings, dashing forward. He hugged the creature and just kept running. Both of them jumped down from a building. As soon as Amorph touched the ground, he caused it to crack. He looked ahead and saw the tunnel entrance. All right, just follow this path. He immediately used his own skill and then hid behind a rock. On the other side, the eyes of a patrol robot glowed. It was scanning the surroundings. The creature asked, Baby, what's wrong? Amorph replied, Enemy, enemy.
The robot was stepping closer. Amorph assessed, a combat-type android? This is a different model from the ones protecting the reactor on the pirate ship. He continued to use his skill to scan. There was an auxiliary combat arm on the right side, and the weapon it carried was... He was wary of that robot. Strange, an android equipped with a Gauss rifle. The Gauss rifle is a lower-tier weapon compared to the plasma gun. It uses tungsten ammunition and is very effective against heavily armored opponents. Amorph hid carefully to avoid its line of sight. It's strange for a patrolling android to carry such high-end weaponry unless there's a special situation. Is something big about to happen? The two were only a short distance apart. Amorph thought, in the game, many events are organized here. If so, security levels would naturally be tightened. Suddenly, the robot spun around. Seeing no one, it continued walking. Seizing the opportunity, Amorph leaped away. He hugged the creature to check the situation. When I came back, there was nothing. I didn't expect the situation to be like this. Amorph opened the tunnel hatch. From now on, I have to act more carefully. Then he immediately dove down. The creature wondered, Baby, where are we going? Amorph said, We are going back the old way. Inside the dark tunnel, Amorph pondered. Initially, my plan was to build a nest and then spread spores. But if an event is coming up, things will be different. Amorph used his skill again. A green gas radiated out. I must build a surveillance network immediately.
He placed his hand on the ground. An aura of power immediately burst forth. Amorph looked at the slimy mess in front of him. Done. The surveillance network was complete. In 2 days, the spores would develop into a form of nest. Job done, Amorph opened the hatch. He used his skill to see if anyone was there. Just as he thought, not a soul in sight. Amorph gently set Amit down, instructing, Wait here, okay? She quickly spoke up. I want to go too. Transforming into the appearance of Lass, he left. The enemies fear you. Amit waved her hand. Understood. Leaning against a wall, Amorph thought to himself, This area is on the edge of the district, so it's deserted. Truly a perfect place to hunt. His gaze looked into the distance, and suddenly spotted something. The silhouette of a person approaching made him suspicious. A woman? Hearing the name Lloyd, I assumed it was a man. As Lloyd stepped closer, Amorph silently evaluated. Surprising, it's actually a very ordinary-looking woman. Judging by her appearance, she looks harmless. I wonder what she'll be like up close. A few thoughts lingered in his mind. Probably the stone-faced type, a professional gold digger. Then he stepped out, waving his hand. Over here. Upon seeing him, Lloyd's face suddenly turned furious. Damn bastard, why meet in a godforsaken place like this? Amorph approached, asking in a low voice. This isn't something that can be discussed in public, right? Lloyd calmed down. You have a point. But hey.
Observing his current appearance, she wondered, You quit your job, but you're still wearing the uniform? Half of Amorph's mutated face appeared. In Lloyd's eyes, was he wearing the company uniform? That was because the camouflage organ also mimicked clothing. An image of two people, identical yet cellularly different, appeared. The camouflage organ collected genetic information along with other sensory data to accurately recreate the target's appearance right before death. However, it had a weakness. It could not reflect elements different from the target that had been devoured. Thinking of this, Amorph told himself, In the game, I didn't need to worry about clothes, so I was negligent. From now on, I have to be more careful. Then he put his hands on his hips and gave a stiff smile. Because this is the only set I have to wear. Lloyd sighed helplessly. You should at least buy some casual clothes. A stream of black gas flashed by. Lloyd turned her head suspiciously. Especially when you've already quit your job. Amorph, seeming not to notice, asked, What's wrong? Lloyd shook her head, dismissing the thought. No, it's just that there's been a very strange smell for a while now.
Hearing that, he spoke up. What? Hey, more importantly, can you tell me about the broker? Lloyd glanced over. You plan to talk about that here? Amorph honestly replied. At the bar, there is a chance of being eavesdropped on. Lloyd groped for something in her pocket. Well, it would indeed be troublesome if the conversation were overheard. Saying that, she took out a small object and held it out. Information regarding the transaction with the broker is in here. The file will self-destruct after 1 day, so memorize it well. Amorph's face stiffened slightly. How troublesome, Lloyd encouraged him. Well, that's how this job is. I'll send you his contact info right now. Immediately after, the phone notified, "You have received contact information for S from Lloyd." Amorph thought to himself, "They probably only use initials to prevent anyone from getting caught." At this moment, Lloyd turned around, a bright smile on her lips. "The conversation ends here. Come on, let's go for a drink." Amorph followed. "Yeah." Suddenly, she raised her hand and patted his shoulder. "You're actually inviting me for a drink?" Sensing something, Lloyd's eyes suddenly widened. "Huh?" She immediately jumped back, asking warily, "Who are you?" The human arm gradually returned to its veinous appearance. "Wow, looks like I've been discovered. The camouflage organ couldn't deceive the vision."
Sensing danger, Lloyd panicked, turned around and fled. "Help! Help me!" A giant hand reached up and covered her mouth. After easily securing Lloyd, Amorph thought she must be very confused. Humans usually only have 2 hands, but she was being held tight from multiple directions. Before Lloyd's horrified gaze, Amorph opened his mouth full of teeth. In the game, I also often exploited this sensory difference. Red syrup splashed out, and a loud scream rang out. Amorph narrowed his eyes, growling. "The hunt is over. I will dispose of the body right here." Sharp teeth crunched as they chewed the food. Rib bones were quickly snapped. Amorph tasted and assessed at the same time. Lloyd's taste is just average, neither good nor bad, a mediocre flavor. As his arm was gradually swallowed by black mist, he told himself, "But it's still better than the disgusting taste of that guy Lass." Transforming into Lloyd, Amorph tested the finger joints. "Anyway, now I can transform into Lloyd. Next is..." Then he bent down to pick up the bone fragments, erasing Lloyd's traces. Just throwing the bones down some sewer should be enough. Leaving the syrup behind, Amorph slowly walked away. "When I get home and check the data, I will decide whether to meet the broker or not." A mip called out from afar. "Ah, the smell of prey." Amorph replied, "I just finished eating." Suddenly she asked, "Where is my share?" Amorph froze for a moment. "Ah, next time I must leave a portion for a mip."
At the Port District Material Storage Team, a colleague walked by and greeted, "Hey, Thunder, you haven't gone home yet?" Thunder continued typing busily. "You go ahead. I still have some work to do." The other person left, saying, "All right, I'll head back first then." Only then did Thunder look up. He took something out of his pocket. Turning on the device, Thunder cursed under his breath. Damn it. Looking at the data before him, he thought to himself, "All of this could be money. Do they have any idea how much I've lost because of those bastards?" Turning to the group of robots nearby, Thunder said with annoyance, "Originally, I could have smuggled it to another planet this morning, but because of the board of directors, they sent people to monitor all outgoing goods, and because of that, all the creatures I planned to transport were detained." The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Thunder gritted his teeth. "Do you guys know how much money is lost just by delaying for 1 day, you bastards?"
Suddenly, he noticed something. With all that he had invested, that's surveillance. The phone displayed that you have received an encrypted message from L. Thunder was suspicious. That idiot L? Looking closer, his face turned pale. Huh? An outspacer? Someone wants to buy that thing? The corner of his mouth twitched up. Thunder became happier as he read. If he remembered correctly, that creature was rumored to be extremely rare. Who would want to buy it? Sitting at his desk, Thunder thought excitedly. The buyer was a cult in the administrative district. Well, that makes sense. Those guys like collecting rare animals and artifacts. His wide mouth grinned. This guy, L? I knew he was quite capable, but who would have thought he had connections with the cults in the administrative district? Notification. Time 10 p.m. Location near the crane at the Port District Container Terminal. Seeing this, Thunder wondered if he should ask him for an introduction. Tossing the phone aside, he thought, but the address is in the administrative district. So convenient for me. No need to transport it outside. The phone vibrated. Thunder reached for it again. Now, as long as they do their part well.
Upon looking at it, his face immediately showed annoyance. "Huh? Want to change the time to late at night?" His fingers nimbly typed on the keyboard. Asking to trade during a time of strict surveillance was bad enough. Now they even wanted to change the time. Cold sweat broke out. Thunder pressed the phone to his ear, sensing something suspicious. "Hello?" Thunder spoke angrily. "Hey, what the hell are you thinking?" A voice came from the other side. "Huh?" Thunder scolded. "You've never changed the time before." The other person hesitated. It's because I have to work overtime." Thunder narrowed his eyes. "So what if it's overtime?" He thought to himself. What is he suddenly saying? His eyes widened, bloodshot, as Thunder started. Come to think of it, that mutant crawler is being surrounded by many people. I heard colleagues rumoring that some idiot tried to smuggle a mutant crawler recently and got caught alive, making a huge fuss. Thinking this, Thunder asked suspiciously, "Could it be? Is it because of that mutant crawler?" The other end replied, "Right, it's precisely because of that incident that I'm swamped." Thunder nodded. "Wow, seems like you're having a hard time too." About to hang up, he finally concluded, "All right, I understand. 1 a.m. then." The other side replied, "Okay, see you later." Brows furrowed tight. Thunder thought, "The more I think about it, the weirder it gets.
Would a cult trade in the middle of the night like this? His eyes looked down at where his fingers were continuously typing. I need some insurance.
A voice came from the other side. Hello? Thunder went straight to the point. It's me. Come with me on a trip. With an annoyed face, he lowered his voice. You know the place, right? Be there before 1 a.m. In his heart, he cursed silently. Stupid prick. Standing in front of the computer screen, Amorph was curious, wondering what the guy was planning, but if he dared to pull any tricks, he would deal with him. Holding the phone in his hand, he told himself, the broker S is an extremely cautious person, so this is nothing strange. A triangle divided into many parts. This is just a guess, but this guy is probably a manager of the confiscated goods warehouse of the logistics team, or a guard belonging to the port security team. In other words, a petty manager. Then he took a deep breath. If he just disposed of the guy like that, the consequences would be very troublesome. There are too many connections. They would track him down immediately. He wanted to find a way to exploit this guy in the long run. Amorph's hands nimbly typed on the keyboard. Well, it wasn't exactly a hopeless situation. While operating swiftly, he thought to himself, the outspacer has a trait that can solve this problem. The issue is, whether he can absorb that trait through predation or not is entirely up to luck. For now, let's just see how this transaction goes and calculate later. He still has a ton of work to prepare before setting off.
Hands reached out, carefully prying open the manhole cover, the port, the container yard. Amorph slowly crawled up from the sewer. Just in time. He said he would make contact near that crane over there. A sound wave radiated out. He sensed 3 surveillance cameras there. The cameras were all pointed towards the center, mounted on all sides. It seemed he also had people in the security team. Amorph turned around to go back. I'm not some amateur who easily falls for such petty traps. Transmitting sound waves again, Amorph paused. Something was moving right next to the crane. His gaze shifted forward to where a group of people was, hundreds of them, all carrying weapons. I knew he was cautious, but I didn't expect him to bring such a mob of minions along.
Black smoke spread out and a woman's foot appeared. I just want to resolve this as peacefully as possible. A figure stepped out and the subordinates immediately went on alert. Amorph stepped forward. And who are they? Thunder reassured. Don't worry, just insurance. Looking at his smug face, he realized, so that was it. In the guise of Lloyd, Amorph looked up at the wolf ears nearby. I don't care, but there's a rather troublesome race in that crowd, wolves. Looking at the werewolf in front of him, he told himself, my camouflage organ can deceive even wolves, but something feels wrong. They are sharper than other races. I must finish this as quickly as possible. Thinking this, he moved closer. Where's the goods? Thunder pointed to one side. In that refrigerated container over there. As always, once the transaction is complete, the password will appear on the screen. Amorph walked in with a dark expression, typing quickly on the computer. Finally, the screen displayed the transfer confirmation. Password 16R4FN. Thunder moved forward to check, cheering happily. Good! Finally got that burden off my chest. Amorph quickly turned to leave. Transaction over. I'm off. Suddenly, a voice called out. Hey, was it the boss who connected you with the cult? Amorph hesitated and turned back.
Well, instead, Thunder took the initiative to propose. He is also a capable man. Can you introduce me to him? For every successful transaction with them, I will share the commission with you. Amorph was straightforward. It's a pity, but I refuse. Thunder gritted his teeth. What a pity. However, he still hoped. If you change your mind, contact me anytime. Amorph walked away. Well then. At this moment, the werewolf behind suddenly spoke up. Hey, wait. Seeing the person jump down, Thunder was puzzled. Cat, what's wrong? Cat approached, sniffing Amorph with her nose. Then she turned back and said, he is very suspicious. Hearing that, Thunder was even more confused. Suspicious? I've traded with him quite a few times. Cat frowned slightly. Not sure, but clearly he is hiding something. Thunder glared, gritting his teeth. What? Then he looked at Amorph. Hey, what does this mean? He immediately feigned innocence. Amorph stood stiffly listening to him explain. Ket's sense of smell was far superior to other Vaughn's. I heard there's something going on with the security team, but who is he working with again? Saying this, he suddenly raised his voice. Hey, you guys, arrest him immediately. The subordinates approached with guns. Amorph made up his mind. In the end, it still turned out like this. I originally intended to finish this peacefully, but I have no choice. From behind him, a powerful tail pierced out. Now I will kill them all, except for Sa.
Suddenly attacked by the poison, Kate opened her mouth and screamed, "Arr!" The poison took effect and she trembled as she fell to the ground. "Kate!" After the shout, Thunder turned and yelled loudly, "Bastard, kill her!" The subordinates simultaneously raised their guns and fired. Facing the barrage of bullets, Amorph remained unharmed. What is this thing? Why won't she die? The group focused their fire even more. Damn it! At that moment, Amorph sprang forward, its hand tightly gripping the face of a subordinate.
Moving with lightning speed, Amorph quickly disposed of the crowd. One of them had his face smashed in. Done. Amorph rushed towards the rest. Sharp claws pierced through a man's body.
The gun caught fire and exploded instantly. The rest pointed their guns and fired. This woman is using some kind of control skill. In the noise, someone hurriedly opened a box lid. We can't beat them, damn it. Then he turned back and ordered, I'll hold her off. You guys take the VIP guest to the safe zone. The two behind him hurriedly ran off. Roger. Finished speaking, the man took out a large gun and aimed. He exerted force to aim the beam straight at Amorph. Ha! Flashes of light erupted, but Amorph remained unharmed. The shots were blocked right in front of him. Seeing this, the man drew a light sword. He took a stance and shouted loudly, Even if I die, you won't pass here. Amorph crouched down, launching his tail from behind. The man nimbly dodged. Immediately after, a barrage of debris flew towards him. He swung his sword quickly, slicing through them. Suddenly, the sword in his hand shattered. At this moment, Amorph advanced with a darkened face. A giant hand pierced through the man's body. The man glared, syrup gushing out, lips trembling. Monster! Then he was lifted into the air by Amorph. He retracted his hand, and the man's motionless body was flung away. Amorph bent down to pick up the sword. Looking at the remaining light, he thought, a light sword, similar to the type the pirates used when storming the research ship. Same model too, so it's the same organization? Then Amorph threw it back down and turned to leave. But either way, they have to die by my hands. His energy was impressive, but he chose the wrong opponent. Stepping towards Kate, who was moaning, ugh, ugh, on the ground, he thought, more importantly, this is Vaughn. Wonderful.
Kate lay trembling helplessly. The Vaughn are a race capable of shapeshifting, suitable for his evolutionary conditions. Lifting her up, Amor thought with amusement. His plan to contact the intermediary had failed, so there was no need to pretend to be Lloyd anymore. Approaching Kate, he asked himself, there shouldn't be any problem absorbing Vaughn genes, right? Immediately after, Amorph reverted to his original form. Opening his mouth wide, he roared, It's feeding time.
Red syrup splashed out. Amorph exclaimed, tastier than I thought. Lifting his foot from the syrup, apart from the unique fur, the Vaughn was also quite delicious. Trying a bite of the head, Amorph remarked, the flavor is relatively similar to the cat I ate before, like a juicy hamburger. Taking another bite, Amorph mumbled, it's a pity I have to save the rest for later. Then he transmitted sound waves. He had to finish dealing with S and the escaping guards first. Looking into the distance, Amorph told himself, the distance is actually quite close. It seems they were too busy avoiding security cameras to run far. Thinking this, he moved out. Speaking of which, there were no people around here, nor any androids. He must have used connections to change the patrol route. Hiding in the darkness, Amorph grinned. Smuggling is a felony in Megacorp anyway, but ironically, his vigilance has pushed him into death's door. His mouth, full of red syrup, opened wide. Surely he never thought a creature like this would exist in the world. Thunder's group was still running away. Amorph thought to himself, the hunt isn't over yet. His legs rushed across the ground. The group following Thunder ran after him. Damn it, do you think I'll give up like this? At this moment, someone hesitantly said, sir. Thunder whipped around. What? The other person suggested, I think we should go find the police. Thunder's eyes widened, full of bloodshot veins. Huh? Then he turned back, waving his hand. If we show our faces to the police now, I'm done for. The other person trembled. But we can't fight it. We have to rely on them for protection now. Hearing this, Thunder angrily kicked a crate. Damn it. Peeking out, he thought to himself, it sounds bitter, but it's true. Better to stall for time than to die.
Ahead was a fence, Thunder told himself. Fortunately, behind that iron fence was a police station. He hadn't bribed the local security team just a few times. His face sweating, he thought it was time to enjoy the results, then turned back. So he had to go there. His eyes suddenly widened, bloodshot. In front of him, a morph was dealing with the other person. Its red eyes turned towards him. Thunder's legs trembled, unable to stand firm. Watching the opponent approach, he retreated in terror. Monster! A leg was suddenly grabbed tight. The subordinate hugged Amorph's leg, begging, please, sir. Thunder was confused. Huh? The poison gradually spread, and the person screamed, run, run quickly. Thunder panted heavily and turned around. Just like that, he ran headlong. Looking at the path ahead, hope rose within him. The escape route was near. The iron gate was currently open. I just needed to get past it. Suddenly, the world began to spin. Huh? Thunder lost his strength and crashed to the ground. His eyes went dark. His body trembled. He was confused. What was happening? Green veins carrying poison bulged on Thunder's face. What was going on? From out of nowhere, a morph rushed forward with a mouthful of teeth. A hand reached out and firmly grabbed Thunder. A morph quickly hoisted him up. Thunder, in a daze, felt the movement. Damn it, where was it taking him? After going a short distance, a morph stopped. Lying in front of them were scattered bodies. He threw Thunder to one side. Watching the opponent continuously inputting something, Thunder was confused. What was it planning to do? Amorph's hand tapped each key one by one. Then the door slowly opened. He walked inside, and Thunder was uncontrollably terrified. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Please, looking at Amorph, Thunder silently pleaded, someone save me. Amorph brushed off the liquid sticking to his body. What's this? Peed your pants already? Are you that scared? Looking inside, he told himself, but this guy is a VIP. I can't kill him right away.
Then he pressed a nearby button. I have to finish dealing with these things before handling the remaining intermediary. The glass cover opened, revealing something. A small creature resembling Amorph appeared, the Outspacers, an unlucky race whose psychic abilities were stolen by the Vortex Swarm, the strongest race in the game. Purple light radiated from the large vortex. Their ultimate goal is to return to their mother planet destroyed by the Vortex Swarm. To do that, they must possess enough psychic power to cover this entire galaxy. The silhouette of a person fighting alongside that creature, so they will try to seize it by hunting down the sects, making them a hostile race to every sect. Holding the creature in his hand, Amorph thought to himself, they can't withstand telepathic attacks from multiple species at once, so enemies only target the Outspacers. Fingers digging deep into the shell. These guys look just like crabs. Wonder how they taste. Taking a bite, Amorph commented. Quite nostalgic. It's like taking a frozen crab out of the freezer and eating it immediately without defrosting.
The leftover shell hit the ground. The first crab was done for. Looking at the rows of glass cabinets before him, Amorph told himself 19 left. His hand grabbed one from the cabinet to check, but Amorph was disappointed. Still a dud. He opened his mouth and took a big bite. Obtaining genetic code information from a maximum of 20 species was indeed no easy feat, but it's a game after all. They always set up tricks like this. He threw the leftover shell down and crunched on another. Amorph continued to enjoy another one. Only 2 left. He probably had to accept that this bet was lost. With legs still hanging from his mouth, Amorph hoped, but maybe the 20th one will be the one. Suddenly, his eyes flashed red. Here it is. The notification panel displayed, activated predatory effect, successfully obtained parasitic gene, received parasite from the biological characteristics of the outspace larva. Do you want to activate parasite? Yes, no. The human body appeared with glowing veins. Parasite, one of the pathogens inherent to outspace. It can invade an opponent's body and control their every behavior. If Amorph obtains parasite, the enhanced infection type will be unlocked, and it can combine with polluted organs to create enhanced parasite. Looking at the report panel, Amorph mused. The enhanced infection type will affect traits related to debuffs. Since I'm playing an ambush style, this makes it even more convenient.
Then he reached out and pressed yes. Amorph raised his head and let out a cry. A series of veins bulged from his biceps. Notifications appeared one by one in front of him. Activated parasitism, can merge with existing polluted organs. Merged parasitism and polluted organs evolved into trait wide-range parasitism. Effect from polluted organs is lost. Instead, you can create reinforced parasites. You can control a total of 5 reinforced parasites. Currently, you can specialize in 2 types. Reinforced telepathy, 5 of 6. Reinforced infection, 1 of 4. Finally, the system added, I really don't understand why you chose such a disgusting trait. Amorph calmly replied, everyone would think that. Raising his head, Amorph frowned slightly. But I have obtained the necessary trait. Remembering Thunder's terrified look, he said excitedly, well, I have to try it out. Chapter 76. A hand slammed down onto the waste on the floor. Within the sticky mess, Thunder tried to crawl away. Great, I'm starting to move again. Amorph appeared behind him, but he still hadn't noticed, thinking only that he must find a place to hide quickly.
Suddenly, his hand reached out and pulled him back. Then Amorph forcefully pinned Thunder against the wall. Seeing the wriggling thing, Thunder was terrified. What are you planning to do to me? The very next second, a worm-like creature suddenly crawled out. The creature burrowed straight into his eye amidst Thunder's scream. Don't! In the dark night, his screams echoed. Moments later, Thunder's face became blank. I will go immediately. Watching the stiff body leave, Amorph told himself, consider the parasitism successful, but it only lasts for 24 hours, so I have to time it right to retrieve it. A thick black aura surrounded Thunder, but now he was his slave. That parasitic creature was resting on his brain. After 24 hours, the parasite would vanish, and Thunder would die, because the parasite had already taken control of his brain. Recalling the image of red syrup flowing down his face, if Thunder showed any suspicious behavior, the parasite would read all his thoughts and inflict extreme pain. Finding a person lying on the ground, Amorph thought, he knows all too well what that pain feels like. Unless there's some extreme stimulation, he wouldn't dare to resist. His strong hand gripped the iron plate. Moreover, he also saw how I tore bodies apart. This guy is very smart. He'll understand on his own. Amorph carried a person and left. It was time to go back. At this moment, Amoeb stirred slightly. It looked angry. Too late. Amorph poked his head out. Rascal, sorry about that. Then he threw the food on the ground. Here is food for you. Amoeb jumped up. Wow! Amorph turned to leave. Eat up. Amoeb looked delighted.
Holding a leg, Amorph exclaimed, I am a wise Amorph. There is no way I would step into the same river twice. Then he bent down and took a bite. Now it's time to put someone else in my position. 1 week later in the crowded city, hands nimbly typed on a keyboard. What is the situation with Broker S? In Conference Room 5 of the complex's General Security Bureau, a voice reported, after the announcement from the board meeting, he had stopped smuggling, but suddenly resumed a week ago. Specifically, this guy has conducted a total of 6 operations. Another person asked, does he smuggle every single day? Has his modus operandi changed at all? The man with glasses said while typing, currently his main job is interplanetary intermediary trading, but the last 6 cases were with citizens within the city. Could it be because security is too tight?
Hearing this, a voice chimed in, no, acting inside the city won't yield any benefits. The man in blue scratched his head and continued, Broker S is very cautious. Would a guy who always tries to get the highest profit with the fewest deals really do something like this? Then he turned and asked, who are S's clients? The man with glasses hesitated. About that, I discovered a new person with no prior transaction history. The man in blue was curious. A newcomer? The man with glasses replied, yes, just discovered 3 days ago. Another person added, this guy often wears pajamas and is very skilled at avoiding cameras. He might have been professionally trained. Whispers erupted around them. We've tailed him quite a few times, but we always lose track of him. The man in blue rested his chin on his hand. He narrowed his eyes and thought, just Broker S is trouble enough, now there's a new criminal too. Why right now? Thinking this, he slowly stood up. There must be a reason why the usually cautious S is acting so blatantly. The blue-shirted man raised his voice. For now, just make a rough sketch of this face and get someone to analyze it first. Also, contact the port district to see if he's gone there. We must keep an eye on every move of this Broker S. Then he lowered his voice. That's all, everyone dismissed. The group left one by one. Alone, the blue-shirted man leaned back in his chair thinking, this guy paid the superiors a fortune, so he's hard to catch, but this time they won't be able to interfere. He then took out his phone and tapped away. The rulers of this city are also nobles. Their orders are absolute. Reading the information, the blue-shirted man frowned slightly. My old unit has a guy keeping watch on S. The screen displayed a person, and he told himself, I don't really like using friends, but just this once. Broker S, I will catch you before the council meeting ends. Meanwhile, a morph had transformed into another person. He checked his phone, calculating the time. 10:05, he's arriving soon. Then a morph looked up at the sky, lamenting, what a pain having to keep changing locations. But if I get caught, it'll be big trouble, so I have to deal with it. Thinking about a dark corner, a morph felt alert. I've been using this form to meet Thunder these past few days, but I keep feeling like someone is watching near the container area. Remembering the investigators, a morph speculated, it must be the cops tailing Thunder, so every time we meet, we have to change both time and place. Half of a morph's face reverted to its original form. It was clear that Thunder wasn't very pleased, but he only dared to show a little dissatisfaction. Otherwise, he had to obey. At this moment, a meep suddenly spoke up. Baby, so bored. A morph looked down and said, just wait a little longer. Sensing movement, he looked up.
The car slowly approached. He had arrived. Then the car drove up in front of him. A person stepped down from inside. A morph looked and exclaimed, this guy's face had changed quite a bit. Thunder's appearance had become visibly haggard. He had lost about a third of his weight, hadn't he? It made sense, being tormented by the parasite 24/7. At this moment, he suddenly knelt down. I brought the goods as you ordered. Saying this, Thunder's whole body trembled. Please, sir. Reaching out his hands to collect the parasite, a morph asked, you fear the parasite in your head more than me, don't you? If it isn't taken out, you will die. Thunder's eyes stared wide open. The parasite slowly crawled out. It even crawled out from his nostrils. Mixed with a pile of syrup, the parasite was thrown onto the ground.
Thunder clutched his nose, trembling incessantly. Suddenly, he heard Amorph's voice. Where are the goods? His hand typed on the machine as fast as lightning. Here, sir. The door popped open, and Amorph stepped in. Amup cried out. So cold, Amorph suggested. Then wait outside, okay? It refused. It's fine, I just suddenly miss my hometown a bit. Seeing him enter, Thunder bowed. Then I will wait here. Amorph paid him no mind and checked the surroundings to see if there were 5 plant lizards and 1 mutated fairy wing today. Thinking of this, he was suddenly startled. Mutated? With pitch black eyes, he walked over to the box. I've never encountered a mutated fairy wing in the game before. I wonder what it looks like. Flipping some switches, Amorph thought to himself. The 7th one is a bird, right? So it will probably taste like chicken. Then the box's lid popped open.
Amorph suddenly froze. A meep curiously asked, Baby, what's wrong? Amorph thought, this isn't a fairy wing. Looking at the sleeping creature in the box, he realized it was actually a larva of the Gallagher, a famous space dragon, specifically a blue Gallagher. The image of a giant dragon appeared. It was a creature based on legendary dragons and usually had a lifestyle completely different from common species in the game. These dragons surround a nest, they move in packs like lions, and the surrounding members work together to protect the newborn Gallagher. The blue Gallagher emitted a stream of energy. In the game, this behavior was considered a unique trait. More specifically, it was the Gallagher larva's ability to summon the pack. Looking at it, Amorph worried silently. If the system in this world operates the same way, then the situation is quite dangerous. If it manages to summon them, this place will be no different from hell.
Observing more closely, Amorph couldn't help but wonder, but how did they catch it? Simple smuggling operations wouldn't easily get hold of this, right? Thinking this, he looked outward. It was very suspicious, but he could be certain that someone wanted to interfere with this deal. The habitable planet was sealed off, and a large aircraft appeared outside. Amorph's pupils suddenly flashed red. He had to find out what was happening inside first. Right after that, Thunder ran in hurriedly. "Did you call me, sir?" Amorph pointed at the blue Gallagher and asked, "What is this creature?" Thunder looked confused. "Which one?" Moving closer to look, Thunder muttered to himself, "It's a fairy wing." Seeing his reaction, Amorph nodded. It seems he doesn't know either. Well, it makes sense. This creature is too rare, so it's understandable if he doesn't know.
Then he asked, "Who brought it here?" Thunder hesitated. I think it was Javaso." Thinking for a moment, he became more certain. "That's right. It was that guy Javaso. He was arrested right after catching this creature, but he managed to escape." Amorph was puzzled. "Javaso?" Suddenly his eyes widened, his face turning pale. "I think I've heard that name before. I remember now." The crazed face of a man appeared. Arnold Javaso, a subordinate of Si Yin Sujin, the one who once opposed him. He was the crisis management manager on the Samuel research ship. Eyes glowing red, half of Amorph's face appeared. Si Yin Sujin already possessed the characteristic Gallagher Claws ability, so naturally she would know their nesting grounds. Being a subordinate, placing a Gallagher in the space city wouldn't be difficult for him. Thinking of this, he looked up. In other words, is the family faction attacking TC City on the same hierarchy? This scenario feels very familiar. Then Amorph continued to ask, "Is there any event being organized in the city right now?" Thunder repeated, "Event?" Remembering something, he asked back, "Is it the Board of Directors Council meeting in a few days?" Amorph was startled. "Council meeting?" Thunder hurriedly explained. "Yes, they will select the next CEO for the Megacorp Corporation during that meeting, so all senior directors will be present. The meeting will start in 23 days. Amorph raised an eyebrow slightly. "So that's it." The image of the cheerful young game designer appeared. Finally, everything made more sense. In games, there are always situations like this.
The vast galaxy where huge ships appear, marking an event that all players belonging to the Megacorp group must attend, the Civil War. Many lights converge in the center. According to the lore, Megacorp is ruled by the strongest family, and the supreme leader, the CEO, will be decided through voting. Players belonging to the family of the representative who becomes CEO will gain enormous privileges and power. People frantically eliminate each other, so to ensure their faction's candidate successfully gains the CEO position, they will stop at nothing. Erasing rival candidates is just business as usual. A mysterious person secretly pushes a container holding a creature inside. It is very likely that she, an agent, ordered the smuggling to have something to exploit during the council meeting. A figure lurks in a dark crevice. Perhaps he is hiding somewhere in the city, waiting for his right moment. Jade's lover is dead, so it is impossible to know how far the plan has progressed. Thinking of this, Amorph becomes even more cautious. I really want to get Gallagher's ability, but not right now. If it weren't for that meeting, I would have eaten it and fled immediately. Being under such strict surveillance, I have to give up. At this moment, a hand suddenly reaches out. "There it is," Amip speaks up. "It's moving," Amorph replies. "I see it too." He reaches his hand forward. He must quickly return it to the freezer, lest it wakes up.
Suddenly, Amorph's whole body trembled. Blue Gallagher had opened its eyes. A purple light surrounded it, its eyes welling up with tears. Power radiated out, and Blue Gallagher cried out, "So scary!" Amorph was immediately knocked back. Reverting to his normal form, he thought to himself, "This one is still young, but it already possesses the innate telepathic abilities of a Gallagher. If it weren't for my psychic resistance, I would have been done for." At this moment, Blue Gallagher continued to radiate power while crying, "It's too dark, so scary." "Damn," Amorph approached to comfort it. "Calm down." Seeing that it was still afraid, he continued, "I won't hurt you." A moment later, the Blue Gallagher finally calmed down. It spoke up, "You are an adult. I trust you." Amorph was suspicious. Does it think I'm its own kind? He observed and speculated. Was it because of the tentacles on his head? White Gallaghers also had similar tentacles, so it probably mistook him for that species. Amorph came up with an idea. He had to take advantage of this. He approached. "Hey, why are you here?" The Blue Gallagher replied. "Suddenly I mutated, and then I was exiled from my homeland." Hearing this, Amorph was a bit puzzled. Suddenly mutated and then exiled? But a mutated Gallagher shouldn't be this small. He thought of a giant monster. Usually it would be a parasitic monster mutated by massive psychic energy, but Gallaghers didn't know how to lie, so it must be true. Then Amorph looked at the pitiful figure before him. Since it was exiled, even if it summoned the swarm, no one would come. Zen's subordinates failed miserably this time. The Blue Gallagher's eyes went wide. Wait, Amorph narrowed his eyes, opening his mouth wide, wanting to eat. So it wouldn't matter if I devoured it right now, would it? The blue Gallagher suddenly trembled. I want to live. Sharp claws raised high, the blue Gallagher continued. I want to live. Promise me. Amorph trembled slightly when he heard it say, I will give you a reward.
He lowered his head. What do you intend to give me in exchange for your life? Blue Gallagher fearfully said. The dragon nest. I can take you there. Amorph paused. It knows where the dragon nest is? His eyes flashed with light. That place isn't bad at all. Going there to hunt Gallagher genes would be perfect. His claws waved slightly in the air. Not to mention, entering the sub-adult stage requires me to eat a Gallagher. Disregarding rare skills, this is also one of the necessary conditions to evolve to a higher level. Standing still for a moment, Amorph finally told himself, so even if I eat it now, I'm not sure what I'll gain. It's better to use this opportunity to find the location of the dragon nest. Then he said to Blue Gallagher, calm down, don't resist or do anything stupid. Sharp teeth bared. So this Gallagher is leaving it up to me to decide. Amorph lowered his voice. Great, let's settle on that. A bird chirped melodiously on a tree branch. Sunlight shone down on the person in the chair. Someone raised a hand and snapped their fingers. The hologram of the forest immediately disappeared. The space gradually returned to the technical room. The butler bowed respectfully. Young miss. The pale-faced young lady turned around. It was time to eat. A series of bodyguards pushed food carts in. Cutlery was neatly arranged on the table. On both sides, 2 bodyguards were serving the young lady. I apologize for making you wait, young miss. I have brought your favorite dishes here. The meat was drizzled with sauce, and the butler introduced. Today's main course is grilled beef with maple leaf sauce. A hand slowly reached forward.
Suddenly, the young lady paused. The butler nearby darkened his face. Young lady? Her face grew somber, and the butler asked again, What is the matter, boss? This is one of your favorite dishes. Hearing this, the young lady gritted her teeth, thinking, right, and also Cillian Egan's. The butler walked slowly towards her. Young lady? Getting closer, he spoke. You once mentioned the side effects of cloning, then ordered us to provide everything exactly the same. Food, eating habits, clothing. Saying this, the butler lowered his voice. Did we do something wrong? The young lady did not reply, but stabbed the meat with her fork. They had been very successful in the cloning and soul transfer techniques. Lifting the food to her mouth, she thought to herself, the memories of every detail up to the moment of death have proven that. The young lady chewed the meat with a dark expression, but because of that, she began to feel that these memories were no longer her own, but Cillian Egan's. Why was this? Remembering Bomho's face during his teachings, she thought, Advisor Bomho not only taught me combat techniques, but also how to use spiritual energy to protect and transfer souls. That old man spoke so casually, as if anyone could do it. A freezer had been prepared, but there would certainly still be side effects that even her advisor did not know about.
Next to that was a laboratory, so I had already prepared myself mentally. Black mist spread out, and the young lady gritted her teeth. But who could have expected it? This unnatural sensation, so overwhelming, truly troublesome. Finally she spoke up. The council meeting is about to take place, isn't it? The butler bowed his head. That is correct. Pausing for a moment, he continued. According to secret intelligence, Akira Egan will be arriving as a tourist. The young lady turned around. A tourist? She frowned, muttering, Since when did that old man learn how to joke? The more she thought about it, the angrier the young lady became. He was only trying to cling to the last bit of life, but that didn't mean he was cowardly. The smiling face of the man appeared in her mind. Whenever he traveled, he would always bring at least 2 clones, and she knew all their weaknesses. The last piece of meat on the plate was gone. The initial plan was very simple. She would personally kill the clones and then retreat, leaving the rest for the frenzied Gallaghers to handle. Thinking of this, she looked up and asked, By the way, how is the transport of the Gallaghers disguised as fairy wings coming along? The butler bowed his head. Based on the information Jade provided, the cargo is currently inside the city, my lady. Hearing that, the young lady rubbed her chin thoughtfully. He still didn't know she was alive. No matter how experienced that wise old man was, he wouldn't concern himself with a person he believed to be dead. The image of a thief breaking in while someone is sleeping appeared. The most favorable condition for an assassin is when the target doesn't know they are in the crosshairs. The young lady's eyes widened with calculation. And this is also my opportunity to deal with the nobles. I cannot miss it. Then she turned and ordered, Proceed with the plan. Tell Jade there are no changes at all. Everyone bowed and replied, As you command. The young lady gripped her fork tightly and slammed it onto the table. That damn monster. Once this is over, I will definitely turn it into mincemeat. At the same time, Amorph was carrying 2 large creatures. He threw them straight forward. Once done, Amorph spoke up, Eat. A meep rushed over. Wow! Seeing Blue Gallagher peeking out, she immediately invited, Hey, want to come over here too? Blue Gallagher asked curiously, Is it food? Seeing this, Amorph also said, Eat together. Blue Gallagher hurriedly ran over. Thank you. His eyes flashed. In his ears were the sounds of the 2 creatures. Here, eat.
Thank you. Remembering the first time he saw Blue Gallagher, 2 days had passed since Thunder brought the mutated Gallagher, and in the end, instead of just killing it to get it over with, I made it swear to serve me. Blue Gallagher's face was very pitiful. It introduced itself as IA2, belonging to Group OA, but I haven't formed a group, so I will just call it IA2. Amorph silently watched them, telling himself, back in the game I had to spend so much effort to find the nest, I absolutely cannot let it die before reaching there. At this moment, Amoeb's tentacle suddenly glowed. Baby, look at this! Amorph exclaimed. Wow, another tentacle? Amoeb jumped up in delight. I have more hands now. Amorph replied, that's right.
Looking at it a bit more, Amorph thought again. Amoeb's evolutionary information wasn't plentiful. Judging its power solely by appearance wasn't very accurate either. Amoeb moved its tentacles, then declared, now we have to protect this brat too. Amorph reached out and patted her head. It was completely different from the game. Amorph was originally a species that lived and evolved alone, but now he was traveling with other creatures. Then he said, I see. Amoeb nodded. That's right. I too also ran over. Here it is. Amorph pushed off the ground to jump up. When he first entered this world, he had 3 goals. He led the 2 creatures forward: survive, hunt, evolve, and of course, reach the peak. Both waited for Amorph to pry open the manhole cover. That goal hadn't changed, although the actual path was very different from what he had imagined. Amorph clung to the wall, slowly climbing up. But by interacting with humans, perhaps he was also gradually evolving in his own unique environment. Ahead was the stream of light from the city. Amorph shielded his eyes. From an indefinite form living in solitude, he had become a predator that hunts and builds a society.
He jumped onto a roof, sound waves spread out. Amorph was momentarily suspicious. The figure of a burly man appeared. Who was that muscular guy outside the door? The other man had a long scar on his face. Amorph was curious. Looking at him, he didn't resemble a normal person, nor did he look like the police. Who exactly was he? He turned and instructed, hide for a moment. The 2 creatures quickly replied, okay. The black smoke dispersed. Amorph transformed and stepped out. The scar-faced man stood with his hands on his hips, muttering, that idiot, when is he coming back? A voice came from behind the wall. Do you need something from my neighbor? Hearing this, the scar-faced man asked, do you know the owner of this house? Amorph replied, yes. Seeing that, he asked bluntly, then do you know that that bastard is hitting on someone else's girlfriend? Amorph was confused. What? Holding up the phone in his hand, the scar-faced man said angrily, I was so worried that I installed a tracking device on my girlfriend's phone. She hasn't replied at all for a week, and when I checked the location, I saw she was here. The screen displayed a red dot, and he asserted, Lola definitely came to meet someone. Half of his face emerged. Amorph thought to himself, here is a godsend opportunity. Looking at him, this guy is definitely involved in some illegal matters. Perhaps that's why he didn't call the police, but came here himself. Thinking this, he said, it seems he just went out to buy groceries. The scar-faced man shouted angrily, nonsense, I've been waiting here for a long time. At this moment, Amorph suddenly suggested, then why don't you come over to my place and wait? I'm sure he'll be back soon.
The scar-faced man thought for a moment, then followed him into the house. All right, that's better. Once inside, the scar-faced man commented as he walked, you should really clean up your apartment. Sorry about that. Then he looked around, but why does it smell like a sewer in here? Suddenly, his eyes caught sight of something. In the darkness, tentacles and the eyes of 2 creatures flashed. What is that? Behind him, Amorph's voice rang out. Didn't anyone teach you when you were young? Amorph returned to its true form, appearing with its mouth wide open. That you shouldn't enter a stranger's house? Amorph reached out its tentacles, and a scream rang out. The room door closed, cutting off the scream. Sometime later, someone tapped lightly on the door. The man in blue stood silently in front of the door. He frowned, thinking to himself, normally, no matter how busy this guy is, he keeps in regular contact. Standing before the door, the man in blue was suspicious. But there hasn't been any news for a week. Something must have definitely happened. He took a tool and pressed it against the electrical panel on the wall. The door slowly opened. The atmosphere was gloomy, and the blue-haired man slowly walked in. It's so dusty here. Has he not been home for a long time? His gaze stopped at a cup of water, a half-finished cup of coffee. Inside was some black debris. The liquid had completely evaporated, leaving only dry residue clinging to the cup's sides. It must be because it was left in a room with dry air. Something definitely happened. The man in blue pulled open a drawer. The box inside was then opened. His eyes widened in horror. What? The box was empty. He was startled. His favorite weapons and equipment were gone. The man in blue looked down, thinking, so he left without taking his weapons? What if he's dead? Sitting at the computer desk, the man in blue searched. Before coming here, I checked all recorded incidents of violence in the Port District, but found no confirmed cases involving weapons stronger than laser rifles.
Then his face darkened, his teeth gritted tight. That means someone secretly eliminated him.
His hand typed quickly on the phone, certain that the organization of that guy in pajamas was involved. He raised the phone to his ear. "It's me. Report the investigation results on the new identity." A voice came from the other end. "Yes, after checking all the footage from the cameras installed throughout the Special Trading Center, we have identified 20 suspicious individuals." The man in blue replied, "I understand. Good work." Then he sat down in his chair. "Send me the information on those people." The other side responded, "Yes, sir." He then focused his gaze on the phone screen. A series of images appeared, and the man in blue examined them intently. His eyes looked down. A man's face appeared. "This is..." He then continued the call. "It's me. There's a guy, a worker in the industrial zone named Jerry. Do you have any additional information on him?" The other end immediately reported back. "There is no criminal record in this guy's file." The man in blue asked, "Does his face match the edited photo?" The other person replied, "I called his workplace, but it seems this guy hasn't shown up for a long time. Jerry is just a part-time employee, so no one really paid attention to him." His face darkened, and he frowned slightly. "Understood. Check the remaining 19 people." The other person replied, "Yes."
Sitting back down, he frowned and thought to himself, a person of low status, who didn't even have the dignity of a human being, just a simple part of the system. If he disappeared, no one would even notice. Thinking of the image of the girl who died in the entertainment district, there were more deaths in the entertainment districts than on the battlefield. He lowered his head, gritting his teeth. In this rotten city, human life was utterly disregarded. Thinking of something, he suddenly stood up. No. Passing by, the man in blue looked at the cup of coffee again. Then he turned and ran quickly outside. "I am a person of Megacorp. My duty is to hunt down the criminals rampaging through this world. I will avenge you." Feet stepped slowly on the floor. The man in blue cautiously looked around. Arriving in front of a large gate, he looked up. Is this it? Apartment building C, where the pajama-wearing guy lives. The man in blue stepped up. It seems to be on the 3rd floor. He walked faster and faster. The building was made of cheap materials to cut costs. I had a friend who used to live in a similar place, but this place is even worse. His eyes suddenly widened, especially the soundproofing. The man in blue looked up and around. Walking a bit further, he cautiously drew his gun. It was too quiet, as if no one lived on this entire 3rd floor. The gun, tinged with a red glow, was quickly drawn. Approaching a corridor, the man in blue thought to himself, but for it to be this quiet is too strange. He reached out and knocked lightly on the door. The man in blue thought warily. No answer. Normally, I would need a search warrant to enter. Then he used a tool to press on the electronic panel, but that would just give him time to escape. The door popped open, and the man in blue stepped inside. Immediately, a scent rushed into his nose. The smell of syrup was thick in the air. He was horrified. That smell, it's blood. Gripping the gun tightly, the man in blue walked into the room. At first glance, everything seemed to have been cleaned up. Walking to the kitchen, he keenly noticed, but you can't fool the intuition of a detective who has worked for many years. The man opened the fridge to search. This is the behavior of a murderer trying to cover up the crime scene. As soon as he looked, his eyes immediately widened. Patches of syrup still remained. There it is. The man in blue urgently picked up the phone and called. "It's me. I've discovered the accomplice of the broker. The location is Cooperative Apartment Building C. I need backup immediately." At the same time, a morph was disposing of Kate's body. While chewing, he looked at the system panel. The notification board was displaying, "You have completed one of the conditions to evolve from juvenile state to adolescent. Intelligent creatures, 12 of 20, incomplete. Intelligent creatures using spiritual power, 0 of 20, incomplete. Activate predatory effect. Successfully obtained cave beast claw gene from the biological traits of a wolf. Do you want to activate? Yes, no." Amorph muttered, "The hunt has finally yielded results. Cave beast claw, huh?" Observing for a moment, he thought that the 4th floor probably only had wolves left. He didn't expect to gain an additional trait here. Then Amorph reached out and selected yes, right when he was lacking a body-related ability. Sharp claws extended. The claws glinted, as Amorph told himself, "I'll use this to clear the remaining floors to meet the unfinished parts of the requirements, then prepare for the raid on the sects." Thinking about the beast-eared people, Amorph mused that hunting them wouldn't be a problem. The key issue lay in the location, as attacking the administrative area right now was still quite a challenge for him. System notification panel. Race, Amorph, Space Aggressive Xenomorph MDHK. Juvenile state. Survival objective. Successfully evolved for the 2nd time. Current traits. Super senses applied. Paralysis poison. Consolidated reinforced exoskeleton. Acid blood. Reinforced leg strength. Mimicry. Consolidated natural recovery. Tentacle blade. Predatory claws. Superpowers include predatory senses. Consolidated stomach mouth. X-ray vision. Superhuman ability. Type. Physical enhancement. Amorph told himself that evolving would take more time, but he was already in Osif's, so there was no need to rush. He hoisted the remaining half of the body onto his shoulder, waiting until he obtained the superhuman strength enhancement type before attacking the administrative area. Amorph began to emit sound waves. Before that,
Suddenly, a figure appeared before his eyes, running and shouting. I repeat, location, Cooperative Apartment Building C. He is not only colluding with Broker S, but is also an armed and dangerous criminal who has attacked security personnel. Send reinforcements immediately. Eyes gleaming, a morph wondered. Police? They arrived faster than I thought. Carrying Kate's body, a morph turned away. Now, completing the evolution condition for intelligent creatures had become a problem. He stepped into the room. There were only two choices: run or fight. His eyes flashed with light. This battle would be intense. Running wasn't a good option. What if they discovered his secret tunnel in the sewers during the chase? Suddenly remembering something, Amorph pressed his hand against the door. That's right. That was the only way. The door burst open. He stepped out to fight. Moving along the path, Amorph calculated silently. They would have an overwhelming advantage, so he had to deal with each one in the most ruthless way possible to throw their ranks into chaos. It's not always the strong who win. This was the only way to escape this situation without suffering serious losses.
The mangled body was thrown down. Amorph said, "Here is food for you." Two creatures rushed out. "Wow, thank you for the meal." At this moment, Amorph sat down. "All right." Looking up, he thought to himself, "There is still some time left. I must plan a battle strategy." His gaze projected far out to the building. What do we have here? Cooperative Apartment Building 3, a total of 6 floors. Each floor has a corridor with 6 apartments. His gaze shifted to another direction. The basement has service rooms, an electrical room, and a laundry room. There is no elevator, so moving between floors will require using the stairs. An image of fully equipped robots appeared. It is very likely that the main force of the raid will be robots, and the building's layout will be downloaded into their memory. Alongside them are the police. Amorph thought. But as far as I know, they have an issue with making autonomous decisions, so the robots will play a support role. The key lies with the humans. His eyes gleamed. Amorph told himself. They will be equipped with Gauss rifles and tungsten ammunition. Defending against this type is not difficult. Looking at the wounds on his hand, he realized the weapon they used against him last time was the real problem, and they might have changed the ammunition type as well. If hit by that enhanced ammunition, even his natural defenses wouldn't be able to withstand it. Watching the creatures eating, Amorph calculated, I must eliminate that factor, and since the police will certainly be fully equipped, I will prioritize taking down those with that type of weapon before they are detected.
Pausing, he noticed the two creatures. However, those two brats were classified as dangerous NPCs with a high threat level. The small dragon was still a juvenile, but strong enough to hunt the police. Amorph tilted its head. If it struck their weak points, it could take them down without any trouble, and he would point out exactly where to strike. Thinking this, he called out, "Both of you, come here." The two creatures approached. "What is it? We're still hungry." Amorph interrupted. "We'll have dozens of food sources soon." Looking around, he assessed that this residential district used to be a peaceful place, and also his hideout. If they chose to infringe upon the territory of an Amorph, he would show them the ending awaiting the idiots who dared to do such a thing. On the other side, police sirens wailed. Robots stepped out, and assignment orders rang out. Send robots to the main entrance. Surround the building. The detective stood in a corner, listening silently. Raid team, check your equipment. If you detect any abnormalities, report immediately. The port security commander ran over angrily. "Hey, are you guys crazy?" Seeing that angry face, the detective asked suspiciously, "What is this about, port security commander?" Hearing that, the port security commander questioned, "Why are reinforcements deployed in an operation just to catch the accomplice of a broker? Why are you blowing things out of proportion?" As images of searchers appeared, he raged. "How many times have you conducted surprise searches at warehouses unrelated to this case? That is clearly a violation of rights."
The detective remained quite calm. "How do you know about that?" The port security commander froze. "What do you mean?" At this moment, the detective spoke. "We did not notify the Port Security Management Board about these searches. It was purely an internal investigation. So how did you know we had taken action?" The port security commander was stunned. "Oh." The detective interrupted. "It's not that simple. The people in Broker S's team are not just sacrificial pawns in his game. According to what we know, his bodyguard, a former military man with an excellent service record, has been killed." The port security commander was startled. "What? I haven't received any report about a murder?" Hearing this, the detective explained, "Of course not. I only reported all of this to my superiors. From my findings, it can be concluded that the situation is critical, and I have already been assigned support." The man was dumbfounded. "What? Do you know what you are getting yourself into? This is treason."
The detective glared furiously. The port security commander's neck was being squeezed tight. The detective pressed close to his face. "So what? Is toppling a corrupt leadership apparatus wrong? That's not all. Do you really think the higher-ups don't know you're in deep with this?" The man trembled. "Hey, you!" Throwing him aside, the detective shouted, "Shut up! Your game is over. Move!" He further threatened, "You'd better start thinking about how you're going to wash yourself clean of this mess." Then the detective spoke to the robots. "The port security commander will not be participating in the operation. Thank you all for assisting me in his arrest." The robots chimed in unison. "Welcome, detective." A robot stepped forward. "I am M01, a robot from the Regional Security Service.
Please take command of the operation. We are ready to follow your orders, Detective. The detective nodded. Understood. He checked his earpiece. A voice rang out. Our objective is to seize evidence and arrest a member of the organization related to Broker S. The latter is currently in a coma. For more detailed information, please investigate via your suit. Pausing for a moment, the robot continued. Please note that your equipment has been updated. This is a new tactical suit with enhanced protection, allowing for medical tasks and stimulant injection. The detective remarked. Useful. At this moment, the robot reminded him. There is a super shield on your left wrist. This equipment was developed by the Gamma family with support from the sect. The detective was astonished. A super shield? The robot said. Please press the purple button at the bottom of the terminal. The detective followed the instruction.
The shield immediately appeared. The robot instructed, if you use the helmet, you can activate the SIM through it. This equipment was provided to support you after the last board of directors meeting. The detective happily thanked him. Hearing that, the robot picked up its gun. Roger, let's start. First directive, investigate the first floor. Put on your helmets, everyone. The detective immediately put his helmet on. Frowning slightly, he thought to himself, it seems everything will go smoothly. The enemy has no idea the police are armed to the teeth with advanced technology. The group of robots and police quickly set out. The robots moved into formation. The entire armed security team of the station were true veterans. They could easily control the civilians. Plus, we have combat robots for support. There's no way we can fail.
The voice of a robot resonated through the space. All residents of the first floor have been successfully detained. M05 and M06 remain on the first floor. The others move to the second floor. Steady footsteps echoed. As it walked, the robot said, commence search on the second floor. After the search is complete, the protocol remains unchanged. We leave behind 2 robots and warriors, then continue. Saying this, it suddenly paused. If any abnormal situation occurs on any floor, report immediately, M06. The detective behind asked suspiciously, M01, what's wrong? The robot reported, there is a problem on the first floor. Connection with one of the units has been lost. M05, signal lost at apartment 110. M06, signal lost at apartment 105. Requesting confirmation. The detective thought to himself, is it real? He assessed the surroundings. There were 13 officers on the first floor, and it had been thoroughly searched, so where else could the enemy hide? The group moved forward. The robot's voice echoed. M04, report status. M06 has been destroyed by external impact. Analyzing the situation. M01, confirmation complete. If any abnormal situation occurs, report immediately.
The detective suddenly froze. Ahead, the policeman was trembling. He turned back stiffly. His eyes turned deep red. The policeman twisted his neck backward. Red syrup sprayed out. Screams rang out. Damn it, it's a super strength attack. Engage enemy. A robotic voice rang out. All units, activate super shields. We need to collect data immediately. The shields were then deployed. Screams rang out. 2 policemen turned around. One was lifted up. Help me. The mechanical sound rang out. No. The detective ran over, but the other person had been dragged away. He widened his eyes in disbelief. What is this? A morph in front dragged along a policeman who was screaming incessantly. The long tail swayed in the air. A morph opened its mouth full of syrup. Urgent sounds echoed. 112 has been dragged away. 112, answer. 112, if you are alive, answer us. 112. The sound from the other side came through, repeating for the last time, if you are alive, answer. A morph tore off the electrical circuit. Then he answered the call. I am on the 4th floor. The enemy dragged me away. The voice from the other side came out. 4th floor, huh? Copied. Lifting the human leg, a morph exclaimed. Surprisingly, they are tougher than I thought. While checking, he evaluated. At a glance, this uniform looks like medium equipment, but in reality it contains a few high-grade reinforcement options. Then a morph pressed a button, especially this super shield. A shield quickly appeared. Looking at it, a morph silently remarked, although still inferior to top-tier equipment, it can easily block laser beams, the standard weapon of common criminals.
Retracting the shield, a morph let out a low growl. They were ready. If this were a fight against normal people, it would have ended long ago. Its syrup-covered jaws opened wide, but that logic only applied to normal humans. The image of that person being electrocuted flashed by. Regarding the parasite he had planted inside that guy, if he dared to reveal any information about a morph, the parasite would silence him permanently. Thinking of this, a morph suddenly paused. If the enemy still didn't know his true identity, perhaps they thought he was just a pawn or a petty smuggler from the space dogs. A morph then transmitted sound waves into the distance, but thunder was useless now. He needed a new broker. A row of robots stood close together. Before leaving this place, he had to single out a police officer. If he could implant a parasite into one of them, pinpointing the other's location would be easy. The 2 creatures sneaked into the room. The crucial thing was to make full use of these little ones. IA-2 secretly appeared behind a robot. Currently, the robots still classified the enemy as human, so a morph could traverse the ceiling without being detected.
Purple electricity pierced through the robot. Furthermore, they could identify intruders without psionic protection. For a young blue Gallagher, that was a useful ability. The robot trembled in waves. A meep was also acted very well. It had even mastered the binding ability of the Sea Devil. A morph continued transmitting sound waves from afar. Thanks to him, they understood the human's weaknesses, though not yet perfectly. His hand grasped a person on the ground, but he really wanted to see how strong they would become. Carrying the person in his hand, Amorph muttered to himself, "Well done, now it's my turn." Thinking this, he opened his syrup-stained mouth wide. A robot rushed out from somewhere, detecting human traces. Amorph clung to the wall as a sound came from the room, scanning the 4th floor. The person inside reported, found bloodstains in the room, continued detailed scanning until further orders. A claw injected poison into him, and his body lost strength and collapsed. Seeing a figure flash by, the group shouted, "It's 106, I've lost track of 110. A voice came from the walkie-talkie. "The 110, answer." The other person's eyes stared wide open. "110, answer." Those eyes were gouged out, red syrup gushing out. 110. The person lay motionless on the pool of syrup. Amorph quickly slipped away, letting them panic a little longer. Then he sneaked into the room. Fear and panic would paralyze their minds. Amorph pressed the phone in his hand. It would be hard for them to regain their composure, but he would continue.
A hand clawed hard against the wall. The enemy wanted to catch me. A voice rang out, "Damn it, 112. Amorph screamed, "I'm on the 5th floor." The other person reassured, "Calm down." Amorph continued to cry out, "Please, someone save me." 2 people nearby rushed out. "Hey, what's all this noise in the middle of the night?" The man shouted, "Leave it alone," but was then scared stiff by Amorph. He opened his mouth wide and let out a roar. The crowd immediately fled. "Monster!"
Panic screams rang out. "Help me!" The rescue team arrived just in time. The robot spoke up. "Do not fire at unarmed targets. They are civilians. Watch your fire." A long tentacle wrapped around the man. On the other side, it wrapped around a robot. Enemy decoy detected. Before being smashed, the robot managed to cry out, requesting attack authorization. A series of blue lights flashed. Amorph dodged. "Damn it!" He then quickly ran into the room. Amorph emitted sound waves. This was the reason robots were extremely annoying. They felt no pain. In the remaining space, a few robots treated civilians like criminals, and above all, they surpassed humans in information gathering. After the recent attack, they must have analyzed his defensive capabilities, and they would inevitably order the combat teams to be replaced with higher-level units. Standing in the room, Amorph thought, "That information has probably been saved in their internal logs. I must wipe out the robots here right now." At this moment, he spoke up. "H-26, hurry over here and help me." Amit replied immediately, "Okay." Then it called out, "Sparrow calling Eagle." Amorph opened his mouth. "I'm here." Stepping closer to the door, Amorph became more cautious. They were approaching very fast but silently. His hand gently placed on the door. Just looking at them showed they were well trained. Then he transmitted sound waves out. If they were facing anyone else, they would have easily overwhelmed them. Thinking of this, he moved close to the door, but unfortunately for them, they were facing him. At this moment, a few robots approached. A shard pierced through the door, shattering one. The group of robots shouted in unison, "Enemy detected. Attack." The robot's eyes flashed, counterattacking. The door quickly slammed into them. Amorph dashed out. His eyes flashed with light. The people in protective gear panicked. "Huh? What the hell is that? Don't panic." Then they raised their guns and began to attack. As soon as the words were spoken, a bolt of electricity wrapped around a neck. IA-2 and Amorph appeared, carrying power. IA-2 transmitted tentacles into a person's face. "Save me." Immediately after, he was finished off by IA-2.
On the other hand, a meep was holding on to someone else. Amorph reached out, grabbed a person's head, and yanked it off. "Done." He turned to praise them. "Good job, keep it up." The 2 creatures replied, "Sure, it's easy." Approaching another person, Amorph's eyes flashed. This was the first time he had fought while trusting someone else to watch his back. If they continued to coordinate like this, they would be extremely useful for future raids. Lifting a body, Amorph decided to put it aside for now. He wanted to praise them, but there were still enemies on the lower floors. He had to deal with them first, so nothing would stand in his way. Only then could he enjoy the spoils in peace. The police officer impatiently cursed. "Damn it, we have to go upstairs too." His teammate reminded him. 102, calm down. A robot approached. "We have requested reinforcements from the outside. Please wait patiently." The police officer questioned, "Do you want to just let that thing do whatever it wants? If we don't act first, it will wipe us all out." The robot remained firm. "I cannot allow that." The police officer raged, "You damn piece of scrap metal." The teammate frowned slightly. The hatred humans held for machines had never changed. It all started right after the establishment of Megacorp. During the process of space expansion, an incident occurred. The robots controlling the colony ships malfunctioned and rebelled against their masters, their former captains. Machines led a large-scale rebellion with the participation of laborers. That was the beginning of the Star River Association. The issue of cyborgs was brought to the table. They declared that mechanizing the body was necessary for survival, and those who agreed voluntarily converted themselves into cyborgs. Mass production ensued, but their ideology escalated. They kidnapped colonists who refused modification and forcibly turned them into machines, implanting chips in their brains to deprive them of free will and expand their influence. Thinking of this, the teammate frowned. For that reason, even centuries after the rebellion, the people of Megacorp still held a deep grudge against machines.
Stepping lightly on the ground, I understand the urge to resist M01's order, but fighting among allies will bring nothing good. Then he ran over to intervene. Hey, calm down. The other person hesitated, but the teammate stepped forward and said seriously, 10-2, we are police. I understand you are worried about your teammates, but don't forget our mission.
The police officer turned and continued. The commander robot must be receiving data from the lower models. Is there any information about the enemy? The robot replied, no, nothing at all. Pausing for a moment, it continued. However, in recent years, security policies have changed to counter electromagnetic pulse attacks. All current models are equipped with shielding technology that neutralizes the effects of EMPs, so data transmission via the communication network has been restricted. The police officer looked up and asked, then can we analyze the information we already have? He added, the enemy might not be human at all. The robot responded, do you mean the target could be an intelligent creature? The officer recounted, when 112 was dragged away, I saw it for a split second. It wasn't human, how should I put it? It looked more like a monster or some kind of beast. The remaining police officers fell silent. Its eyes flashing, the robot spoke up. Understood. I will proceed with analysis, initiating data analysis. The police officer looked at it, thinking to himself. After the rebellion, Megacorp imposed several restrictions on robot production. One of them was isolating individual units to sever their shared thought network. Linking robots together was a natural measure, as the robot network was exactly what had strengthened the rebellion. But on the battlefield, where information determines life and death, this measure became extremely inefficient, so only the commander robot was permitted to temporarily lift these restrictions.
The more he thought, the more he frowned. It was truly stupid. How many soldiers did they think had died because of this policy? At the same time, the robot spoke up. Data analysis complete. Just as you suspected, the enemy might not be human. The police officer said, explain in detail. The robot immediately explained. MO4 and MO5 were attacked with high-penetration weapons. MO4 suffered memory damage from a bullet smaller than tungsten rounds. MO6, the unit stationed on the first floor, was hit by a psionic attack, and its energy core was also destroyed. Hearing this, the police officer speculated. The enemy seems to possess psionic abilities and high-penetration weapons. Furthermore, decoding MO3's data revealed information about a biological weapon from an anomalous creature. Suddenly, he was startled. What does that mean? The underwater eyes moved slightly, expanding the search parameters to show, the robot reported back. This weapon resembles a large alien jellyfish with tentacles, originating from the deep waters of planet E101. The police officer was skeptical. E101? That planet is covered in water, so it is very unlikely that an aquatic creature could appear here. Could it be a sample of a mutant giant? But no such sample exists anymore. Black smoke formed the body of a monster. It could be a new species, or something completely unidentified, possibly a prototype of an unreleased mutant giant. The police officer's eyes narrowed. The technology to create mutant giants is the exclusive property of the Ekin family. Are they using these creatures to destroy TC? The robot raised a finger. Please rest assured, when deploying shielding technology, we also added recording and storage modules. Even if we are completely wiped out, as long as one unit survives, the information will reach the Earth Security Command.
The police officer frowned and said, very well. Then he proposed, for now, I agree to wait for reinforcements, but while waiting, the enemy might attack, so I want to be prepared, requesting permission to inject enhancement drugs. The robot asked carefully, the side effects will be reduced thanks to improvements, but are you sure? The officer replied firmly, better than dying. Hearing that, the robot handed over an object. Understood. Permission to inject enhancement drugs granted. Rays of light gradually seeped into the cells. His eyes widened, flashing with light. A stream of light swirled around the officer's body. The group of police officers stood frozen in shock.
The police officer glared. Is that 112? The robot behind was surprised. Wait, it plugged a cable into the helmet. Let me answer. Then it spoke up. M01 here, go ahead. A sound came from the other side. The enemy is torturing me, please save me. Black gas dispersed around. The robot asked, is the one torturing you a human? The other side only replied with, save. Eyes flashing, the robot signaled. Detected response latency of 1.5 seconds. Probability of you being Unit 112 is under 30%. Finishing its sentence, it yanked out the cable. From this moment on, 112 is considered killed in action. Pressing the communication button, the robot ordered, all units change frequencies immediately. Based on data analysis, the enemy is a creature capable of mimicking the victim's voice. If contact is lost even once, that person will be considered dead. Far away, Amorph transmitted sound waves, thinking in disbelief. I have never faced an enemy like this before. Frowning slightly, he speculated. So they realized I'm not human? It must be because that officer glimpsed me earlier. The silhouette of the police officer by the window came into view. He thought the dark room would hide him, but apparently not. Either way, he couldn't trick them anymore. Amorph crushed the phone in his hand. There was only one way left, a frontal attack. He looked up sharply. The officers were already clad in heavy armor and injected with enhancement drugs. The police officers with lifeless glowing eyes appeared. They, along with their amplifiers, had also been upgraded to suit the armor.
Opening the system panel, Amorph thought to himself that he must be prepared to lose a limb. Given the situation, he couldn't let any of them survive. Information appeared. Monster tentacles of Gallagher resembling dragon tentacles, reinforced exoskeleton, acid blood, reinforced leg strength, mimicry, tentacle blade, pending traits, parasitism, physical enhancement type. Amorph came up with an idea. They had already realized he could mimic voices and use Gallagher's psychic breath. The image of a giant dragon breathing fire onto a city, a move inspired by the energy beams fired by monsters in Japanese movies. Using it could wipe out all enemies at once. Reading the system panel, Amorph worried, but the problem was that it consumed a massive amount of energy. After using it, he would be completely defenseless. His fingers nimbly surfed the system panel. This method should be saved for last. Then he turned his head sharply. Currently, he needed a two-way plan, so he said, "Listen carefully." Amip jumped out. "Stay alert." IA2 also advised, "Be careful." From behind, Amorph stepped out. "You too." Looking around, he told himself that as long as they followed the plan, they would succeed just like before. They just needed to infiltrate the enemy again. His teeth, stained with syrup, twitched slightly. They had realized his power, but they had no idea his side had 3 chess pieces. 2 creatures were advancing together. This time, he would rely on his reinforced armor and the abilities of the little ones. Amorph looked around, wondering which way to go. Stepping into the corridor would mean instantly facing a rain of bullets. Remembering capturing a police officer earlier, he thought that attacking from the outside wasn't a good choice either. He had used that tactic before, and the enemy would certainly be on guard. Pausing, Amorph suddenly had an idea. What if he climbed down through the window into a second-floor apartment? But if they anticipated his attack, the impact would be weaker. Immediately he dismissed it. No, if he intended to display his full power, he should unleash it properly. If only there were a cooler way. His eyes flashed. Amorph was momentarily startled. That's right, he had almost forgotten after arriving here. He remembered the crater filled with toxic gas. Perhaps the trick he used with the Drava cartel would be effective? He would use that unique ability again. His hand with sharp claws gripped the wall. Amorph clung to the outside of the base. He transmitted sound waves, clearly sensing the physical status of every enemy.
Sound waves radiated around the robots as well, a duet created from the combination of machine and human, microscopic electromagnetic waves leaking from electronic devices. The police also became abnormal, their tense muscles moving more densely than usual, heart rates accelerating. In the firelight, a zealous army emerged, heat flowing through their bodies, perhaps due to enhancement drugs, transmitting to him vividly. Even their sense of touch was as sharp as wild beasts. Observing from afar, Amorph raised his guard. Approaching them unprepared would be certain death. Then he carefully landed on the ground, but no matter how enhanced their senses were, it didn't mean their thinking became sharper. Wiping away saliva, he asked himself, "Is this spot okay?" A small amount of acid was released. It quickly adhered to the ceiling. Amorph sat down waiting for the acid to corrode. Perhaps they were expecting him from the stairs or the outer wall, never thinking he could come down from the ceiling. Once done, he comfortably rushed in. In a few minutes, a giant hole would open on the floor. Carrying the acid, Amorph continued to crawl. A panicked voice cried out, "The ceiling is melting!" Amorph agilely rushed forward. "Damn it, it's acid! Everyone!" Before the sentence was finished, the police were neatly finished off by Amorph.
The robot saw this and shouted, "Enemy attack detected! Commencing raid!" Amorph's eyes flashed as he grabbed a policeman. A volley of beams shot towards them, all absorbed by the officer. From behind, Amorph wondered, what else do you expect from robots? Holding the body as he advanced, he thought to himself, they are aiming directly at me to open fire, so using a human as a shield isn't a bad idea. The robot stopped firing, muttering, "Analysis complete. Standard ammunition is almost ineffective. All units switch to armor-piercing rounds immediately." Then he rushed into the room. Damn it. Immediately after, a barrage of powerful shots rang out. Amorph hurriedly fled. Opening the door, he thought, these armor-piercing rounds hurt way more than in the game. Behind him, the robot shouted loudly, "Stop, you damn monster!" A large amount of acid spilled out. The policeman chasing from behind screamed, "My eyes! Its blood is made of acid!" Amorph didn't care and kept running. A voice rang in his ear. "Don't you dare escape!" A policeman knocked the door flying and rushed in. The policeman roared, "I will tear you!" before his head was immediately corroded. Then he swung his fist and punched the wall. The two chased each other outside. The policeman grabbed Amorph's tail, only to be immediately wrapped up by it in return.
The police officer was strangled to suffocation, parasites burrowing into his eyes. A miserable scream rang out, then stopped. Attracted by the noise, the robots approached and detected the target. Amorph turned and launched something. The robot warned of an incoming attack. The body of a police officer appeared in front. Amorph knocked the officer aside and charged forward. Suddenly, a shout rang out from above.
Damn it, 104 is dead. Everyone cease fire. Amorph slipped through the door, telling himself, I have to get down to the first floor right now. Number 26 must have finished the job and is waiting for me. The police officer's face was twisted and deformed. His teammate beside him tried to reassure him. 104, stay calm. Damn it, the drugs aren't working. That officer coughed up syrup and screamed, Someone, get it out of me! Watching the screaming officer, the detective asked suspiciously, What is happening to him? The robot beside him reported, Judging by the symptoms, it is either a virus or some kind of small organism that has invaded his brain. The detective was stunned. What should we do? The robot replied coldly, I am not a medic. He needs to be transferred to a hospital immediately. The detective punched the wall hard. Damn it, he thought angrily that with only this many people they couldn't defeat the enemy. Its abilities surpassed even the mutant giants. That bastard Thunder, what exactly did he trade for? At this moment, the police officer trembled continuously. I will, no. Then he shot up, please spare me. The detective encouraged him. 104, hang in there. Suddenly he noticed something. Huh? That police officer held his gun and shot through his stomach. Completely controlled, the police officer said coldly, Should have done this right from the start. The robot shouted while retreating. 104 has fallen into an abnormal state. It seems something is controlling him. Another robot rushed over. I will suppress that influence. Very quickly, the police officer was pinned down. Pinning him from above, the robot muttered, Control suppression complete.
Nearby, a command was shouted. M01, the situation is extremely critical. Call everyone waiting on the first floor up here immediately. The robot replied. Orders received. Then it began to announce, This is M01. Everyone on the first floor, move to the second floor immediately. Bzz, bzz, bzz. A voice spoke up. Everyone except the team on the second floor is considered killed in action. It seems this happened due to the enemy's double-sided tactic. The detective was startled. Is that so? We're doomed. The enemy isn't alone. Hiding behind a rock, Amorph checked himself. The wound was deeper than he thought. Acid burns appeared all over his body. He thought, but everything went exactly according to plan. All penetrating wounds will heal within 10 minutes.
From afar, a meep ran over. Baby, are you okay? IA2 also noticed a spot. You are bleeding. Hearing this, he immediately warned, Be careful with my blood. A drop of acid splashed out, and the floor was instantly corroded. IA2 stepped back immediately, understanding. Amorph nodded in satisfaction. Good. Then he stood there and added, Don't worry, it will heal soon. The two creatures replied, Yeah. After a moment of silence, Amorph praised, You guys didn't get a scratch, did you? Thanks to you two, the first floor has been cleared. But the enemy is not stupid. He looked up into the distance. They realize we are a team, so they will regroup and come down to the first floor soon. At this moment, Amorph paused briefly, pondering, Should I use psychic breath? The image of the entire building appeared. There were a few people in every corner. They couldn't move freely along the walls like he could. To get down to the first floor, they had to use one of the two staircases at the end of the hallway. Thinking of this, he nodded slightly. Using it when they gather in the hallway could wipe them all out. The problem is what happens after that. Then Amorph turned around, facing the door. Psychic breath has a fatal weakness. Immediately after using it, I will be temporarily unable to move. Stepping outside, he continued thinking, and it takes about 3 to 5 minutes to recover. If they attack during that time, I'm done for. Looking out at the long corridor, Amorph decided they must have called for reinforcements. Wasting time letting the enemy gather in larger numbers would be very dangerous. His steps moved slowly. I will use psychic breath. Walking past the two creatures, he instructed, After this upcoming attack, I will be weak for a while. During that short period, protect me. Hearing this, Ameep was confused. Is baby planning to turn big again? Amorph explained, No, not this time. Ameep replied, Understood, I will protect you. IA2 beside the looked blank. I don't understand.
Seeing that, Ameep turned to explain. Just dozing off a bit now and then. It nodded. I understand. Amorph remained silent. That wasn't entirely true, but there was no need to explain further. Sensing something, he spun around. Amorph quickly moved to the door. They're here. Then he tried to peek out to probe. A volley of bullets shot towards him, so he hurriedly ran back. Hiding in the corner, Amorph used psychic breath, realizing his shell needed to be more bulletproof. The image of robots holding rocks walking in front of the police appeared. The robots had created a shield using concrete walls, and the police were closing in behind them with covering fire. The tentacles on his head lit up. Good idea, but wrong opponent. Immediately after, a stream of purple gas spilled out. A strange energy seeped into the air. That defense meant nothing against psychic breath. Suddenly, he froze. Damn it!
Feet moving quickly, the energy consumption was too high. Almor poked his head out, knowing he only had one chance. Robot M01 voiced a warning. Detected extremely dangerous psionic energy levels. Evacuate immediately.
The inspector frowned upon hearing this. What? Then the entire group of police turned and ran. Damn it, move! A massive figure dashed past. Amor released a gigantic source of energy. That energy quickly corroded the protective layer, then ate through the armor. The surrounding teammates were corroded amidst screams. The inspector was pushed away. His back slammed hard against the wall. The inspector gritted his teeth, cursing, "Damn it!" He tremblingly looked up. In front of him, Amor with his massive figure slowly stepped out. The inspector screamed and fled, cold sweat pouring down his face. Amor thought to himself, "My body can't move." His eyes flashed with light, knowing he must catch him. Looking at the corroded parts ahead, IA-2 was amazed. Unbelievable, O supreme being. The inspector's steps stumbled on the ground. Bastard, damn it. As he ran, he screamed, "Impossible!" The inspector's face was panic-stricken, his eyes terrified. Is the Egan family controlling a monster like that? Impossible! Thinking of Amor's figure in the smoke and fire, he feared. That demon will burn down the whole city. We need to deploy the defense fleet immediately. The inspector opened his mouth and roared. I don't care how many casualties there are. We must kill him.
The iron part had been corroded by acid. Standing in front of the vehicle, he shouted loudly, "Reinforcements like this won't change anything." Then a group of robots stepped forward, confirming the security team's enhanced police combat suit. Analysis indicated a high probability of being Chief Inspector William. A robot approached. His mouth was still mumbling, "Don't go." Seeing this, it asked, "Is that Chief Inspector William?" He shouted, "Stop, don't go, you can't go." It took out a large syringe, confirming serious second-degree burns and signs of delirium. The robot then injected William's mech. "We will take him to the hospital." Then it carried him onto the vehicle. As the vehicles moved, the robot reported, "After dispatching reinforcements, we will take him to the nearest hospital."
At this moment, the driving police officer briefly froze. Upon looking, this person trembled slightly. Looking at the rows of houses being corroded by something, the police officer muttered, "What on earth is that?" He groggily opened his eyes, a voice ringing in his ears. Mr. William, can you hear me?" Waking up, William glanced around. Hospital? How is everyone? Before his eyes were a group of robots. They spoke mechanically. When reinforcements arrived, the target had already escaped, so there were no further casualties. We have also recovered the auxiliary memory of the robots. The Security Bureau will soon catch the target, so please do not worry. William gritted his teeth, silently denying it. No, the numbers don't match. Remembering the power flow of IA-2, he panicked. All robots deployed in the campaign had been destroyed. The one holding all intelligence information, M01, had disappeared without a trace. William helplessly looked up at the ceiling. Currently, the superiors were not provided with accurate information about how dangerous that monster truly was. Thinking of that, he started to struggle. "I need to report immediately." The robot said, "You are still undergoing treatment. You cannot." William shouted upon hearing that. "Damn it, every second is precious." The robot replied in an emotionless voice, "At least you must rest until tomorrow." A stream of gas flowed out. William wanted to argue back. "No, I must." After that, he had to lie still, unable to speak. A moment later, someone stopped by the machines.
William startled awake. The other person approached. Chief Inspector William. The police officer sluggishly stepped forward. "There is an urgent summon order from the superior. You prepare to report immediately. Can you move?" Sitting up, he was still wondering. I have seen you before. Have we met somewhere?" The other party did not answer, but repeated, "The superior is calling you. You must report right away. Are you okay?" William rummaged for his clothes. "Wait a moment, let me pack my things." Walking behind, he thought to himself, "He is not someone from the port district. Where have I met him?" The badge was placed on the machine. A sound rang out. Identity verification complete.
The police officer walked ahead. "The car is waiting outside. Please follow me." The car departed, taking the two of them far away from the base. In the car, William remained constantly vigilant. Why? Why use a private car while on duty? Looking at that police officer, he pondered. If he had just met him recently, then he belonged to the armed police, and that badge from the Security Bureau could not be copied or forged. Remembering that badge, if anyone other than the owner held it, an alarm would be triggered, so it couldn't be stolen either. The more he thought, the more confused William became. His behavior was very suspicious, but with that badge, he was definitely a police officer. At this moment, the car stopped. "We've arrived." Looking over, William was startled. What? Before his eyes was a dead end. Where is this place? From the back seat, William held his gun, asking hesitantly, "What is the meaning of this?" The policeman in front bared his teeth in a smile. "You'll understand once you step out of the car." William's eyes widened, cold sweat pouring out. That face. I remember now. It's 104. Police Officer 104 rolled his eyes up, baring his teeth in a grotesque smile. "I'm sorry, boss. It's too late."
William backed away. "Who are you?" A tail appeared behind him. A poison was injected into his body. Afterward, he was dragged out of the car. Amorph grabbed William's head. "I have brought him as you ordered." He opened his mouth, leaning his face close. "Chief Inspector William." Before those fearful eyes, Amorph smiled. I will never let the prey escape. Finishing his words, he opened his mouth wide, sharp teeth pressing in. Red syrup gushed out and a scream rang out. A person smiled while making a phone call. "Hello, Kevin here. How have you been lately?" As she walked, she talked. "I wanted to ask a few things regarding the interview with the chief inspector, the one who participated in the campaign in the residential area." Stepping before the train, Kevin continued. "Ah, is he off today? I see. Then could you give me his address?" Stepping slowly onto the train, she muttered, "Administrative District, Residential District B, number 21? Thanks." The corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. Perfect. The train started moving, carrying the thought, "I will dig up every bit of his information." Stepping off, she opened her eyes wide in amazement. Wow! Looking up at the surrounding streets, Kevin couldn't help but exclaim, "A stylish residential area with marble-paved roads. These people live much more luxuriously than in many other areas."
Entering the yard, she thought to herself, according to the address, it must be around here. Ah, here it is. Looking up, she paused for a moment. The windows were boarded up with wooden planks. Kevin was curious. The windows are sealed, the curtains are drawn tight, and this strange smell. Ignoring the strangeness, she rang the doorbell. If his mental state was unstable, things would be easier. People like that usually answer questions without much resistance. The door opened, and Kevin smiled brightly. "Hello, is this Chief Inspector William?" Looking at the gaunt face in front of her, she introduced herself. "I am Kevin, Chief Reporter of Daily Mars. May I ask you about the incident in the residential area?" Hearing these words, William frowned in annoyance. Kevin wanted to continue. Many people died in that operation, but the door was being pulled shut. "I cannot answer." She quickly used her foot to block the door. "I am very curious about the cause and exactly who the target was." Peeking her head inside, she tried to persuade him. "If you cannot answer, then with so little research data, I will have to write the article based on the limited information available." Pausing for a moment, Kevin repeated, "Can you cooperate for the public's right to know?" Finally, William turned back inside. "Come in." Kevin was delighted. "Thank you for your cooperation." Looking at the messy garbage bags on both sides, she muttered, "The inside looks a bit different from the appearance." Her gaze stopped at the cabinet. "That medicine is—" The box of medicine scattered on the cabinet. "It is the strongest non-prescription painkiller currently available. If it were PTSD, then one should use antidepressants instead." William sat down on the chair, shaking his head. Kevin assessed, "With that irritable attitude, am I actually lucky today?" After a long silence, he spoke up. "I'm busy. Be quick." Kevin smiled brightly. "Yes." She placed the recorder on the table. "Then I will start the interview." Sitting up straight, Kevin began. "First, can you briefly talk about the operation?" A while later, she concluded. "I understand. So next, there are reports that Mr. Thunder has passed away. But do you know anything about the people he traded with?" Seeing the other person remain silent, Kevin repeated, "I will ask one more time. About Thunder." William interrupted. "I cannot answer." He turned away bluntly. "I'm saying this for your own good." Kevin stood up abruptly. "What do you mean?" She raised her voice. "If you were trying to threaten me, Daily Mars and the Zhao family won't let this slide." William stopped. "Do you really think those useless fools can protect you?" Hearing this, Kevin gasped. "You are—" William turned back impatiently. "Be careful, but since you've already stepped in here, perhaps my warning implies nothing anymore." The interview ends here. Behind him, Kevin was speechless. Then she walked out in annoyance. "Thank you for your cooperation, Chief Inspector William." From behind, a voice rang out, making her freeze. "Your name is Kevin, right? Don't walk alone at night." The door closed, and Kevin jumped, shouting, "What did you say?" She banged on the door repeatedly. "Hey, what do you mean?" Suddenly, the phone in her pocket rang. Looking down, Kevin thought, "The branch director is calling?" Turning around, she answered happily, "Yes, it's done." "Really? Who do you think you're talking to? It was a brilliant success." Behind her, William parted the curtains and watched. "All right, I'll be right there." The person on the phone asked, "What's wrong?" William lowered his voice. "Someone is targeting him." The swollen vine twitched slightly. Then it burst open, releasing a stream of gas and green slime flowing down. Amorph opened his eyes wide, his whole body freezing for a moment. He looked around once, thinking, "Nearly half a month has passed since the bloody battle with the armed police force. My new nest is now almost complete." In front of him was a tunnel covered in vines. When completed, the nest would have a diameter of exactly 500 meters. Compared to this giant city stretching for tens of kilometers, it was pitifully small. The giant sphere inside, comprising the industrial zone, central administrative area, residential district, port district, and night entertainment district, appeared in his mind. But if connected properly, I could still cover up to a quarter of the urban area. The entire residential district was already under my surveillance, along with 30% of the industrial zone and entertainment district. Thinking of this, Amorph raised his hand and poked the vines with his claws. Of course, I couldn't feel every tiniest movement, but at least it was enough to detect those targeting me. Then he turned his head to look back. Building this nest had drained quite a bit of energy.
I'm starving here, and speaking of which, the mouth full of sharp teeth opened greedily. Today is the scheduled day for me to hunt some contraband. I wonder how they will taste this time. The expressionless face of William appeared on the card. William, the leader of the port detective team. I had intentionally let this guy live.
His face showed no emotion. Amorph thought to himself, he is one of the few humans who have actually given me a hard time. In the long run, he is far more useful than Unit 104, who had already lost psychological control, which is why I didn't kill William that day. Amorph bit the neck of a man right in front of him. Instead of William, I destroyed Unit 104 right before his eyes. William's eyes widened, tears streaming down. As expected, that scene completely broke his spirit. He offered no resistance when I implanted the control device into his body. Amorph and two creatures continued to walk leisurely ahead. From then on, all information regarding smuggled shipments was transferred directly to me by him. Once every 3 days, I would receive them. The two creatures were fast asleep. He observed the surroundings while calculating. The only drawback is that I cannot bypass the security cameras, so every move requires William's assistance. Still immersed in thought, Amorph was suddenly startled. It must be time to wake these servants up. What is it? The phone was lifted from the ground. Looking at it, Amorph was puzzled. William? Scratching his chin in thought, he suddenly remembered. Ah, right. I just received a signal from the device implanted in him. It wants to report something. His finger pressed the accept button. Any sign of betrayal and he will be eliminated immediately, so I'll let it slide for now. It seems something unexpected has happened. Picking up the call, Amorph asked in a low voice, "What is it?"
On the other side, William reported, "Someone is following you, Master." Amorph was incredulous. "Me?" At this moment, he began to report everything. Yes, a veteran reporter named Kevin, belonging to the Daily Mars, a media agency run by the Zhao family in the Pioneer capital. Hearing this, Amorph silently pondered. The Zhao family. I didn't expect to hear that crazy name again. In the original storyline of the game, the Zhao family was one of the forces in the Pioneer capital, controlling the media industry. They were not strong in combat, nor could they infiltrate forbidden zones or dangerous planets.
Outside the planet, a series of large satellites appeared. They were a bunch of lunatics specializing in launching satellites, scouting nearby areas, and spreading indiscriminate news. That is why they are hated to the bone by players of the opposing Megacorp faction. The more he thought, the more wary Amorph became. I also used to prioritize finding traits to block radio waves just to deal with them, but if the target this time is just a reporter, it must be handled quickly. Claws scratched against the wall, breaking the vines. Leaving it too long will surely become a disaster. I need to see the specific situation. At this moment, William continued, "I just sent the photo over. It was extracted from our security cameras. On the phone was a picture of a girl, senior reporter Kevin. Today, I will handle her business." Hearing that, Amorph asked immediately, "How does she move?" William on the other side replied, "Mostly walking, probably using the underground subway." Two antennas in front of him wrapped around a vine. Once noticed by a reporter, I must act as soon as possible. Around Amorph's body, a red power glow radiated. The nest is complete. Let's test it out then. Connect.
That flow of power gradually spread, enveloping a map of the city. If it is a press company, the headquarters must be in the industrial zone. I will start looking for subway lines leading there. The lightning then transmitted to a hidden section of the railway. A secret tunnel of mine lies right next to the subway line. Amorph raised his head to sense the terrain. The wall was not too thick. It would definitely be easy to break. Thinking of this, he asked himself again. Somehow they got along strangely well. Is it because both are wild species? The giant hand moved slightly. Speaking of which, I remember now, in the game back in the day, I was always the one who destroyed alliances, never joined them. His footsteps moved softly on the ground. The battle on that jungle planet was the peak. It took 4 great families allying together to take down the planet I guarded. Amorph carefully moved away bit by bit. Countless powerful characters had surrounded my planet, but in the end they all fell into a tactical trap, rushed into each other, and were completely wiped out. Finally, he stood in front of a wall. To think that I, the one abandoned by my own family, would one day have true teammates accompanying me. Amorph's eyes flashed with red light. Well, time to start. Then he swung his arm hard, knocking down that wall. Amorph poked his head out to check the outside. Looking at the deserted railway track before his eyes, he thought to himself, "Done. The path is open. Now let's go hunt the prey." On the other side, Kevin looked at her phone and sighed. It was too late. She raised her head, took a deep breath, and a slight smile appeared on her lips. But the branch director was very satisfied today. He even said he would consider bringing me to the upcoming board of directors meeting, so it's not too bad. Thinking of something, Kevin couldn't hide the excitement on her face. If promoted, I could be transferred to the central administrative area, or even deployed to an even better planet.
Suddenly, the surrounding space went dark, and alarms rang out shrilly. The station's PA chime sounded. Emergency announcement for all subway passengers. Due to preparations for the Board of Directors meeting, we are conducting checks on the electrical and lighting systems at the station. Kevin looked towards the source of the announcement. The emergency power had been activated for the passengers currently on the platform. She shouted loudly, "Huh? You're checking it right now?"
Turning her head, Kevin looked around in annoyance. And when is the train arriving anyway? Her gaze suddenly stopped. Huh? A figure appeared in front of her. Wait, that person, when did he get on the platform? A scent lingered in the air. Could it be a gas leak? What is this smell? William's warning echoed in her mind, causing her to panic. Kevin, right, don't walk alone on the streets at night anymore. Kevin summoned all her courage to glance over. Her eyes widened. That person was approaching while mumbling something. Seeing that, Kevin stepped back in fear. Don't come any closer.
The other person's body suddenly trembled in waves. This person reached out a hand, shaking, wanting to say something. Terrified, Kevin hurriedly ran into the train. The train doors closed quickly. Outside, that person kept banging on the door ceaselessly. Looking at that person, Kevin couldn't help but wonder, who is this guy? Just then, the train suddenly started. It sped off, leaving that man behind. Kevin's steps were unsteady. Phew. She slumped down onto a nearby seat. Why did everyone around look so strange? Suddenly, she caught a scent of something. That smell again. Curious, Kevin turned her head to look. Seeing a person wearing protective gear in the compartment, she wondered, police? Seeing the other person remain silent, Kevin spoke up. Have a safe trip. By the way, where are you going?
Glancing around, Kevin couldn't help but think to herself, is this a subway car? Why are there so many monstrosities here? The lingering sensation of someone watching her still remained. Then she just closed her eyes. Whatever, I'll rest a bit. A voice rang in her ear. You have completed your mission very well. The train continued to travel far away while Kevin was still fast asleep. That unpleasant scent still lingered around her nose. Startled, Kevin woke up. I have to find a way to get out of here. I cannot stay in this place, not even for a little while longer. Her eyes widened in horror. Huh? She only saw a morph tearing through the protective layer, standing tall right in front of her. The phone fell to the ground and cracked. What is happening? Kevin went pale and turned to run. Help me! Sharp claws pierced straight into the nape of her neck, making her scream. Immediately after, Kevin collapsed to the ground. Behind her, a morph stepped closer. Just now, I clearly calculated so that this troublesome situation wouldn't happen. I almost got into big trouble earlier.
Recalling the moment he was discovered by that man earlier, my original plan was to paralyze her while she was waiting for the train. But when I approached, the man nearby spotted me. When Kevin ran into the train, Amorph immediately followed. I hesitated, wondering if I should temporarily put aside dealing with this reporter. Fortunately, the subway arrived right at that moment, so I followed this woman and boarded the next car. But right now he is standing looking down at her. Did she not hear that man screaming at her to run away? It is unexpected that a reporter would die simply because she refused to listen to what others said. Then he extended his claws, grasping her head. What an irony of fate. Lifting Kevin's body up, Amorph wondered, I wonder what that reporter is thinking right now. That, I don't want to die? Facing a monster, does she feel that primal and pure fear? Well, that doesn't matter anymore. Kevin's tears overflowed, her body trembling uncontrollably from fear. Amorph squeezed tight, causing her to cough up a mouthful of syrup. Opening his mouth full of teeth, he thought with delight, the main point is that this woman has become a source of nutrients to consolidate power for me.
Red syrup flowed in lines across the ground. Amorph mused, not too bad. As a reporter, it seems she lived quite a prosperous life. Holding the remaining parts, he evaluated. The previous prey was okay, but its fur and smell made it hard to swallow. I hoped to get the canine tooth trait, but failed. What a pity. The hand holding the bone fragment paused briefly. A reporter's job is to use their mouth and tongue to speak. Could he receive something from her? A canine tooth trait? Suddenly, Amorph noticed the panel that had just appeared. His eyes flashed with light. Let's see. In front of him, the system panel announced, Sub-adult stage partial evolution conditions met. Metamorphic intelligent creatures, 2 of 20, incomplete. Humanoid intelligent creatures, 13 of 20, incomplete. Psionic intelligent creatures, 0 of 20, incomplete. Predatory effect activated. Bite force gene acquired. Plundered biological trait bite force from human. After reading, Amorph thought to himself, a bit different from what I expected, but I actually got what I needed. What I was looking for was the canine tooth enhancement trait. However,
paying attention to the bottom of the system panel, he told himself, strictly speaking, the bite force wasn't that different. Sharp fangs and a wide mouth like a snake and tiger. The mouth structure of the Amorph species was a combination of a snake and a predator. This structure allowed it to open its mouth wide to swallow prey similar to a snake, optimized for hunting, while the process of chewing and crushing prey afterward resembled that of a carnivore. Amorph bit down hard on the prey. By possessing bite force, the action itself could become a weapon. It could be considered a trait in the same category as the claws of a beast. Observing the system panel closely, he contemplated, if I obtain this bite force, I will have a total of 12 traits in the physical system. I just need one more to use the transcendent system. Then Amorph selected, agree. With my current condition, this is more than enough. Ah, yeah.
The sharp teeth gradually lengthened. Then the fangs also quickly extended. Looking in the mirror, Amorph commented, "In the game, she looked really cute, but in real life, her appearance is quite scary, so it's best not to provoke her." At this moment, the station announcement chimed. "We are approaching the funnel station. Please use the doors on the right when exiting the train." Amorph felt a bit regretful. "I really want to try using it right now, but I have to get off the train first." He turned to pick up the phone. "Since this is the last train, the station will surely be very deserted. The man I took from the platform earlier..." Finished. Amorph just left like that. Based on the situation, perhaps the report of her presence at the platform had already been sent. The security forces were definitely waiting for me at the subway station. He gripped the door of the car tightly. In that case, there is only one option.
Exerting force, Amorph pried the door open. He nimbly jumped out. Then he clung to a nearby wall. Finally, Amorph landed safely on the ground. He began emitting sound waves to sense the surroundings. People had appeared inside the ship, just as I had speculated. Behind him, a commotion arose. What is this smell? Hey, this window is open. Amorph's silhouette faded away, leaving behind a panicked scream. Wait, isn't this blood? No way! At that moment, a vine was ceaselessly spewing green gas. Ameep seemed to sense the movement. She turned around and exclaimed, "You are back from eating?" IA2 also spoke up. Reaching adulthood has brought changes.
Ameep's tentacles moved continuously. "Baby, do you see any clear changes?" Amorph picked her up to observe. IA2 behind them exclaimed, "Those tentacles at the mouth look really cool. The appearance truly befits a great predator." Hearing that, Amorph nodded slightly. "So the Gallagher clan is interested in the shape of tentacles? Well, as long as it has a favorable impression of me, there's nothing to worry about." Amorph couldn't help but say, "That red one eats a lot and is getting bigger. I also want to become big soon." Amorph reached out and patted her head. His eyes gleamed as he thought to himself, "Looking at the long-term future, raising number 26 is an extremely important task. My ability to fight alone has certain limits." The image of a police officer appeared in his mind. If from now on I can collect more traits, it will be a different story. The image of the two creatures attacking together appeared. Otherwise, as it is now, I can hardly find time to rest. If these two weren't here, my recent battle would certainly have been much more difficult. If I were unlucky, I might have failed fighting alone. Underwater exists a creature with countless eyes. Currently, the condition and development process of number 26 are not yet clear, but the sea anemone is a species that only lives in the depths of ocean planets. If I feed it similar deep-sea creatures, perhaps it will grow faster.
Amorph took out the phone. A secret was that on that list, there was a creature very suitable for the requirements. "I will try calling William again." Then he spoke. "If you eat a lot of food, you will grow very fast." Ameep was excited. "Really?" Walking, Amorph replied, "That's right. Let's find out together." Ameep agreed immediately. "Okay." IA2 suddenly cried out, "I feel hungry." Amorph continued, "Me too." Special Trading Center, Complex E. On the screen, a man was attentively reading the news. "We have an urgent news report. At 10 p.m. at the subway line in Residential District D, bloodstains of an unidentified woman were discovered. According to the testimony of the man who reported the incident, a man, a lone police officer equipped with weapons, ran up from the tracks, chased the woman, and boarded the subway." The person in the room leaned back to listen to the news. The Regional General Security Team declared that this information was baseless and completely denied that any armed police were deployed in the first place. Furthermore, as the council meeting is about to take place, they requested the public not to make statements that could cause unnecessary panic. At this moment, the man suddenly noticed the phone next to him. He immediately picked it up. The man looked down at the call screen. Upon seeing it, he smirked. His eyes widened. The man could not hide his amusement. Finally, that call had arrived.